What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook live stream where we will be discussing Tank Girl and De-A-hole-Ization. I can't say bad words in the first half hour. So we were talking about the many things, not just this movie, but we did just watch it last night, so why not? For research purposes, of course. But we were talking about Tank Girl. We were talking about Annexation. That's gonna be, a fun one. Of multiple places. That was a hot topic this week, as well as kicking dickhead dudes to the curb and fighting for loved ones with very high caliber weapons. So, buckle up for that. Before I forget, don't forget to hit the like button, share the stream, do all the things. Consider becoming a Ko-Fi supporter and/or a Patreon supporter. Grabbing the game's music, etc. Everything does go to help keep these streams and videos and games and everything that we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative happening. But yeah, so you're probably asking, like, why am I doing a video on this specifically? I've been trying to do like very recent, trending things, just so that people can discover the videos in the algorithm of YouTube. But I've been doing a lot of research this week because I'm working on a game that is called Pigeon with the Gun. So this is another quick little sidebar for that. I am currently working on a game. If you become a patron, you can get lots more inside scoop on the sorts of things that I am working on. And just to give you an example, I'm going to jump in there really quickly so that you can take a look at the Pigeon with Gun updates. So if you're like, what the hell is a pigeon with a gun? Like, what does that even mean? Let's see here. So a pigeon with a gun. Oh, by the way, and recently, if you missed it last week, we did have a panel, with Luna Oi, our Vietnamese comrade, Indigenous Sioux content creator, Lost Sioux, Pan-African, I think Nigerian diaspora person in the UK, Saber, and also a content creator. And unfortunately, we missed our trans Korean diaspora person, Chaos is Mel. But check that out if you want to hear BIPOC international perspectives. Anyways, so Pigeon with a Gun, though, what is going on here? Now, Pigeon with a Gun is actually very much like Tank Girl. It's a dystopian, if you don't know about Tank Girl is a dystopian future where the entire Earth capacity to rain, I should say, the world has no rain because a comet hit the Earth. It's not fully explained. It's some kind of Mad Max Fallout apocalyptic event has transpired. Comet. This one is comet based. So it's very 65 million years ago dinosaur apocalypse. But either way, the point is that water is scarce, and a huge, terrible corporation, ManCorp, or Water and Power. I think it's a ManCorp or Water and Power. I might be confusing those two. Water and Power is this giant corporation in the dystopia that owns all the water and the power, or almost all of both. And water is power. It's funny because they actually say water is life, which is a native Hawaiian and indigenous saying. But Ola Ikavai is the saying that we say when we try to stop the U.S. military poisoning our water in Hawaii. But anyways, so but the U.S. military knows that. That's why they have plans to start water wars and to have infinite warfare and struggle and hoarding all the precious resources that is clean, pure water. Anyways, so Tank Girl is kind of prescient in that sense. Mad Max Fury Road also, right? Do not, my friends, become addicted to water. Thus spoketh Immortan Joe. Which is, it's not really that mysterious. If you work at any high level in the United States, whether in Silicon Valley, the military, the government, or corporations, they all have projections about the future of scarcity of water. So it's not really a mystery. The U.S. has, and the Western capitalist countries have been planning this for a long time. But anyways, in Tank Girl, it's like the water is scarce. They don't have enough water. And so this corporation is charging everybody exorbitant prices for the water, privatized water that is owned by a huge corporation. And Tank Girl and her friends are outside of that. They're like a handful of basically punks, actual punks, who have penchants for unusual haircuts, dyeing their hairs all kinds of colors, including green and blue. The word SJW didn't exist in that time. They have their little kind of community that they basically steal water from the giant corporation because they don't want to pay the exorbitant prices that the giant corporation enforces with military militarized police, tanks, jets, bombs, guns, and has its horrible board of directors and executives that are constantly killing each other to fighting each other over who gets more share of their own water and power and money by extension. So or basically water is money too, right? So water and ammunition or money. It's very Fallout. But anyways, so Tank Girl is this dystopian future, is my long story short. And Pigeon with Gun, Pigeon with Gun is a game I'm currently working on that is set in the world of it's a long story, but Holly, well, you can this is a thing I'm trying to think of. How am I gonna pitch this thing? Because it's very weird. It's kind of difficult to directly pitch unless you are inside of this other universe. But anyways, it is set in the world of this show called The Lounge that Holly writes for. And The Pigeon with a Gun is a spin-off, a very tongue-in-cheek mini-game based on the world of The Lounge, a music and variety show that, as I said, Holly writes and produces for. You're probably asking, like, holy feathers, Spook Man, what in the hell is a pigeon with a gun? How is a pigeon holding, let alone firing a gun? And, so you'll have to play the game to find out, in fact. Essentially, Pigeon with Gun is a Neofeud-like send-up of 80s action movies. Dystopian features that is essentially a 12-year-old bratty boy's idea of a cool game after watching Escape from New York, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, maybe Tank Girl, Johnny Mnemonic, etc., Escape from LA. And so in the future, gigantomous corporations run the world. It's a corporate bad place. Crime was here. This is a giant newspaper that says trash. In the future, there exist newspapers, but this is the tongue. It's very like Kung Fury and Manborg kind of tongue in cheek satire of the way that cyberpunk is written from as if a 12-year-old boy is writing it. Like, of course, giant corporations don't have their headquarters on the slum area, street level, next to the pawn shop and the payday loans place, right? But this is the inside of the mine, and they don't call their places corporate bad place. Anyways, so there's lots of crime and trash and stuff. People with different hair colors smashing cars and just throwing trash. That's what crime is. Crime is when people of color and scary people who have different hair colors are in poverty. Whatever, I don't care because I'm cool and cynical. And so this is the main character who is actually a sock puppet in the show, and his name is Snake. His name is Dex, and his name in the show is Snake Dexkin. Anyways, but then the evilest corporation ever, corporate sponsor, they kidnapped this. Anyway, so it's a long story. Like, you got to play the game to find out. But this is some of the kind of tone of it is. It's very satirical, tongue-in-cheek sort of dystopian world. And this game is coming soon. This is yet another ad for another thing I'm doing. Today it's all I'm front loading it. This is like watching 20th century television right now, which I have to do to watch things like Manborg. You gotta like watch on Tubi 50 freaking commercials, to learn how you can save money on your psoriasis medication or consume more Hot Pockets or whatever the fuck they were selling there. Anyways, oh crap, I'm not supposed to swear. Cure for cancer, anti-corporation device, but I only do good science like curing cancer and sugar-free candy cigarettes. So if you don't get that joke, you'll find out soon with Pigeon with Gun. But anyways, and so there's other stuff. And so if you want to find out more about other things we're working on, if you become a patron, you do get some access to that. Speaking of high caliber weapons, this is actually a scene from Neofeud 2. That is another thing that I like kind of talk about and show in the for the Patreon patrons. And so is that. That's another one. And so is that. That's another one. Speaking of, actually, this is perfect, right? Speaking of denazification. Wait, can I open this image in a new tab? Yeah. Can I open this image in a new tab? There we go. Speaking of de-assholeification and demilitarization, right? And high caliber weapons defending your friends and your loved ones, right? While having unusual hair colors, dress styles, and non-white friends, right? Ice-T famously co-produced Tank Girl in the mid-90s. This is a game inside. This is a game that one of the characters in Neofeud 2 is working on called Lilith. That is a stand-up of Doom, obviously. That she makes in her spare time, where you kick the asses of racist, sexist, dumpster people to hell and back. And those people include members of the Azov Battalion, worshippers of the Nazis, like basically everyone in the United States and NATO support. Literal NATO. I'm sorry, space NATO. That's not. It's Negato. It's the North Galactic Astronomical Treaty Organization, and Space America. I'm sorry, Utopia, and the Space Fascists. Who were 1488 and also are all Trump supporters, or a lot of them. Anyways, and so this is a game about fighting those people with high caliber weapons, such as akimbo machine guns and stuff like that. And but this is a game within the game of Neofeud too. So you see how there's a lot of this theme has been in my mind a lot, because that's the thing I spent a lot of time working on is anti-racist, anti-colonial, anti-asshole games and anti-Nazification, which is a thing that's happening in parts of Europe. Other parts of Europe are Nazifying, like Italy that just elected Mussolini too, right? Miss Meloni, who literally said fascism is good and Mussolini did nothing wrong. It's amazing the doublespeak that's going on. So places are going to get denazified. Places are going to get demussolini'd all over Europe, right? But it's interesting to watch how much people are kind of losing it in the West and in those parts of the world. They're like, they can't really handle the fact that like the civility is basically like the more competent imperialists, the more competent a-holes, right? The Mancorp executives, right? Sometimes they're not even white guys. They might be, a Kamala up there. You might have a Obama. You got your Rabia Kadir, billionaire. She's actually Asian, but she defected from the People's Republic of China to come to the United States to support extremism, right? Speaking of a-holes in the East Turkestan Islamic movement with the United States, Mike Pompeo, Democrats and Republicans, and the Project for a New American Century people like Nancy Pelosi and the World Uyghur Congress. So there's people that, the Mancorp board is made up of a variety of people, disproportionately white guys, but not all, who have very good PR for their own Nazis and a-holes, right? Like the Azov Battalion, like the far-right fascist party, Añez of Bolivia, who is played up as some kind of, feminist power symbol. Like the sixth richest person in China that defected to the United States and worked to support far-right movements and get Uyghurs killed in the Xinjiang and East Afghanistan region. Like people like Bolsonaro, who is going to defect to the United States to try to get a right-wing coup to undo Lula when he wins in Brazil. Like Justin Trudeau, who supports the continued genocide of indigenous people. Yesterday was Orange Shirt Day. So Justin Trudeau's he's a liberal, he's a very civil politics, nice-looking guy who supports the Nazi. He literally brought the Nazis. He has many photographs of himself and his friends with Nazis. Ukraine, the largest diaspora population of Ukraine is in Canada, disproportionately far right. And so that's the kind of the people, but everyone's like losing their mind because they're unable to hold their stories together, right? You've got Finland, Sweden, Norway all going hard Nazi, joining NATO. I was just talking to a Finnish person saying they're ripping apart all the somewhat universal healthcare, the Nordic welfare state model. They're just shredding that up. Not that they always had imperialists and there's always deep racism and unaddressed problems there. But now he said the Finnish person was like, they're just shredding it all up, and they're telling everyone to sign up for the military. The greatest rate of anti-Semitic crimes is happening right now in Germany. They said of all time, and then they remembered, oh, that's right, there was the formal Nazi party. After World War II, there were more Nazis in power. There was no denazification of Germany. Right? There's no de-A-hole-Ization of Germany. The United States installed Nazis. Werner Braun celebrated for doing rocket science for the United States, literal Nazis. So Europe is now going, it never denazified. It's just going mask off Nazi. And all of the Mr. Respected and Mr. and Mrs. Respectability politics, right? All of the upper class, middle to upper class remaining white, disproportionately professional, managerial liberals who think of themselves as really good people and go to sweat lodges with Abomination and She-Hulk. I mean, I like She-Hulk, by the way, but I'm just saying that's the kind of people that go have ayahuasca rituals on stolen indigenous land and use words like native healing and 7 generational thinking while they only think of themselves because they're a bunch of a-holes that haven't denazified. Those are the kind of people that hang out with Victoria Nuland and Nancy Pelosi. These like New Yorker, Los Angeles, freaking Connecticut billionaire children types. So all those people are very confused right now. Those people that are on Twitter with their blue check marks, like, or not, they're like, why are there, and they're all up in my thread that I made about this problem, about, wait, I thought we were the good guys fighting the bad guys. I thought our side was the good guys. How come there's all these swastikas? Why? But they're not really asking that. They're just ignoring the swastikas, and they're just saying, fascists are saying we're fascist Italians, we're fascist Ukrainians, we're fascist Finnish, we're fascist Germans. We're killing Jewish people in Germany. We're killing them in Ukraine because we are fascist. And then the liberals are going, well, you're not really. What does fascist? You're not really fascist. You're just very patriotic about the people of your country. And the fascists are like, no. I'm Mussolini too. We have to rid ourselves of these other people because we're just simply better. And then the Western liberals like, no, well, that's very extreme. I think that you're not really I wouldn't say that you're a Nazi. Well, I'm sig-heiling to Stepan Bandera, Nazi collaborator. Well, I mean, what even is a sig-heil? That's like an Asian symbol. The swastika is not really like a racist symbol. That's just that's a weird Asian symbol. China symbol made. I'm waiting for the New York Times and BBC. That's shuttering its Vietnam correspondence headquarters, by the way, because imperialists are running out of money. I'm waiting for BBC and New York Times to say that China caused Nazism in Europe because they gave their Asian, rectilinear spiral symbol to the Nazis. That's what I'm waiting for, that one. That's going to be a lot of fun copium. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of comedy for me and Danny Haifong. Anyways, back to Tank Girl. So, obviously I'm jumping all over the place, but, this is a major thing that's happening in the real world, right? That's not on the topic of specifically Tank Girl. But if what I do here is I just, all I do is pop cultural criticism, and what's my favorite side shave with the single lock of blonde hair, or the red mohawk version of Tank Girl. All I do is costume and cosplay discussions and pop cultural fangasm. That's all I do. I don't do any politics on these streams. I don't know what people are talking about. People keep saying I'm political, but you're being political by being a normal Western anything, which is being status quo in the West is being racist, capitalist, imperialist, genocidal maniac. So, anyways, you're the political one. Why are you being normal for? That's like literal fascism in the West. So, maybe I'll get to that in a second. So, but De-A-hole-Ization, annexation, kicking dickheads to the curb, and fighting for loved ones with very high caliber weapons. So, one more sidebar is that I have made games where like Tank Girl, you have female characters that are wielding extremely high caliber weapons. One of them is called Decolonators, which is a game also, I should add. Decolonators is a game about kicking a-holes to the curb. right? I mean, sometimes kicking an a-hole to the curb, what that means is, removing your nasty deadbeat boyfriend or husband or partner or whatever, of whatever gender partner. Sometimes it means, quitting that abusive job that's every job in the capitalist structure, basically, that's extracting your labor value in a dictatorship of the workplace where you are the cog in the machine. Sometimes that means but sometimes it means something bigger than that. Sometimes like decolonization is just large scale a-hole removal, right? Denazification is large scale abusive, unjust, self-centered, very violent shithead removal. That's what denazification is, right? So it's really a lot of it's a lot of gameplay and a lot of wordplay that the highest levels of the Western barbaristic system, also known as capitalism, colonialism, in the current imperialist hegemony, they need to kind of like just confuse, like brainwash and confuse and manipulate the words. Oh, those people with swastikas, that's not really a swastika. Oh, well, when your boss is like, paying you tiny amounts of money and paying themselves, 50,000 times your salary, like, for example, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, who makes 2.5 million times as much as his average Amazon fulfillment center worker. Well, that's not really, I mean, he deserves that, right? He deserves that, right? Just like the Nazis deserve to, kind of take over. I mean, I'm sorry, those very patriotic Germans, right, in World War II, they just deserve that territory because, well, I mean, they're just, that was Churchill, that was the UK, France, and the United States, until Germany turned on them. But up until that point, Mussolini was supported, right, by the US, the UK, and France. Well, I mean, he just wants what's good for Italy. It's not like he's a fascist. He just wants what's good for Italy. It's not like the Greece had any sort of fascist. The far right in World War II of Greece, they just wanted what was best for Greece. They're doing the decolonization, don't you see? They're trying to stop the evil annexation of communists, and that's why we got to support them. But it's always this, right? I mean, whether the entity is big or small, what's important is like what are they trying to do? Are they trying to? That's the problem with some Western so-called leftists, is they think anytime there's a big entity, it's always bad, and a smaller entity is always better. And ideally, everyone is like, chopped into 20 pieces, and your heart can rebel against your brain for tyrannical, synaptic instructions ordered to the heart from the nerve endings or something, right? That's it's like, it's like sometimes people get into, that's an important point, right? Which is a part of Tank Girl too, I would say, which is that, sometimes people, there's more than one person in a collection of people or group, whatever you want to call it. Your commune, wherever you are, your family, right? Your romantic partner, and sometimes, right, the people are treating each other with mutual respect and care, right? And Tank Girl starts off with that, right? Like, let me get a picture of that, like Tank Girl and the boyfriend. In the very beginning, it starts off with that. So, in the very beginning, and later on they have mutual unions with Tank Girl is canon furry, because Tank Girl goes out with the anthropomorphic kangaroo. So Tank Girl and beginning of the show though. So where is the beginning of the movie? Yeah, and so like like Tank Girl and this dude, right? That's Ice-T, by the way. The polycules are a thing in Tank Girl. There's a lesbian kiss in Tank Girl. It's very progressive for its time. It's much ahead of its time. I think Margot Robbie was gonna. It was in mid '90s. Margot Robbie was gonna play Tank Girl possibly. But where okay, I can't find it. Okay. Anyway, so like in the beginning of the show, right? You have like Tank Girl and that dude. I forget. Nobody knows what the guy's name is. That's Malcolm. What's his name? Not Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm McDowell. The ultra violence Clockwork Orange guy. He's the bad guy. But anyways, my point is that like, so this guy and Tank Girl, they have a relationship. Tank Girl comes. They do like Russian spy versus American soldier role play where she's like pointing a gun at him and makes him take off all his clothes, and it's a joke. So they're obviously they're in a partially, it's definitely sexual and romantic relationship, and there's kids around. I don't think the Tank Girl's kids. It's kind of like in Cuba, right, where an assemblage of people who come together and care for each other, not just a cis man and a cis straight woman pumping out white babies, because black and brown people don't count as human in the United States. Apparently, that's why you can kill them on camera, and then everybody forgets after a year of Floyd rebellion. So in Cuba, though, where you can have any group of people, right, different genders, races, colors, ages, not just two. Could be 3 adults of 2 women, 1 man, trans, 2 trans, 1 non-binary, 4 or 5 people, grandparents, children, non-biologically related, adoptive people, in a 4-bedroom household, and there's 10 people that are all caring for each other. What counts as a family is not the nuclear cis heteronormative Western patriarchal conception, which is also the way that a lot of indigenous people conceived of what families were. It's certainly for Native Hawaiians. It's not all the same, but it's not the nuclear Western, and particularly the nuclear Western American, although not exclusively, family. That's all been banned, and not banned. It's been is not being recognized as the only definition of family in Cuba now, and so which is one of the most progressive places for those kinds of gender and sexuality rights. And so my point is that so the people the Tank Girl and the dude have some kind of relationship. They have kids around. They have a community that is a consensual organization of all those people, and they are different. They all look weird. They all look very different. They all they look weird to cis heteronormative Nazi. I'm sorry, Westerners, Europeans, Americans who identify people who are white, straight, and a particular skin color and particular hair colors as being better than other people, right? And that's part of what makes you an asshole. Is because you think those things, right? Such as the CEO of Mancorp, such as the average, the Europeans and the Americans are all showing their asses. The rest of the world is going, they're all astonished, right, at how racist, not just the United States, Canada, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Germany, France, they're all saying things like, well, all the savage countries have war, and all the black people can stay in the war zone, but the blonde hair, blue eyed babies, they can come to Sweden, Germany, Finland, Italy, UK, Canada. It's just it's amazing. It's just it's almost like the U.S., the EU, and all of the U.S.'s allies and all the white countries are a-hole countries. It's almost like that, It's kind of. I'm not saying everybody there is an a-hole, but it's what is running those places. A lot of the population and the power structure certainly is full of people who don't accept people based on arbitrary differences, or think of themselves as higher and better based on arbitrary differences, like bank accounts, like skin colors, like religion, like spirituality, like culture. Despite all of the airbrushing that their imperial billionaire think tank elite do to try to make the social democracies of Europe look progressive and look not a-hole, they all showing their a-hole selves by electing all their Mussolini twos, right? So, but if Europe and the Euro colonies didn't do that, it wouldn't be a problem. But the problem is they are doing that. They're doing that to me. I woke up to 2,000 replies and comments saying that Hawaiians are backward, savage, spam-eating losers, and that Hawaii deserved to be killed. And all kind of horrible sexual, I don't even want to repeat it, sexual violence to kill Hawaiian leaders were and all the most racist thing you can think of. And also support Ukraine. I'm like, how are you supporting your Nazis? I'm sorry. How are you supporting your very patriotic, right? Swastika. I'm sorry. Not swastika. Asian symbol. How are you supporting all your? You see all the doublespeak that the Orwellian entire Western world. How are you justifying this crap? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And I'm like, you are a subhuman brown person. They're literally adding me in this. I had literally 2,000 of these in the last 2 days. 2,000 plus. I don't have enough time to go through all these replies, right? In this thread, U.S. mad about 95% approval of Russian annexation. I didn't say, oh, Russia did nothing wrong. Russia's the best. Putin is great. I just said, like, you're very upset about this thing that's happening. Do you even know that Hawaii literally had, confirmed 95% against annexation, and that U.S. has continued illegal occupation? But everybody is in this thread. 2,000 plus white people, or I don't know, just Westerners. Many of them are. Many of the left, right, center, and they're all in that thread saying shit like, I don't want to put fuel on the fire, but some of them are saying shit like this. Oh, Hawaiians don't like mainland until spam quantities are in question. They're basically saying, like, Hawaiians love, and this is somebody who is identifying themselves as leftist. That's why I choose the leftist, because it's like, these are the good ones. They're like, Hawaiians just love America because we have all your spam, right? Just completely ignorant shit, and that's why you have to stop talking. What was the other one? That was a fun one. I use fun in air quotes. So where did I put that? Yeah, Hawaiians and other brown black people are savages because you don't hate Putin enough. Basically, like, I see a lot of you guys giving respect to Queen Elizabeth, the violent barbarian, blah blah blah, but somehow you don't feel the same. So you're saying that I am giving respect to Queen Elizabeth. I don't know if people. This is a white person telling me that. How do you not? Obviously, you're just assuming that Hawaiians love Queen Elizabeth. So number one, you don't even know what the rest of the non-white world thinks. And then you're saying, you love your Vladimir Putin. It's just like completely ignoring the point, which is I'm saying, like, no, it's about the annexation of Hawaii that's illegitimate. So everybody just immediately jumps to you're bad because you don't hate a guy that we identify as the bad guy enough, right? Another one was what was the other one? It was like I don't want to show what some other people said, which basically like when the U.S. stole Hawaii, it was a Chad move, and also you deserve to be conquered. There's like mountains of that. I don't have time to go through all of it. So and people, like, they have, some of them are right, some have liberal, some of them have progressive, some have conservative, some have left. There's actually a lot of anarchists, a lot of anarcho-communists up in my replies in that thread. That's just about, like, I'm just saying, hey, let's if you're upset that Russia is in Ukraine, and there's an annexation happening, right? And then you should, let's if you are a Westerner, which you are, virtually all of them. And it's very clear. The black and brown in Puerto Rico, I had Palestinians. There's one Palestinian arguing in this thread with like 50 white people saying Palestine deserves to be under NATO and U.S. hegemony. They're like yelling at Palestinians. These people are like anarcho-communists in their flag, liberal, conservative, whatever. They're like, it's just amazing stuff, and it's people from Africa, people from Asia, people from Latin America, black people in the United States, brown people in the United States, indigenous people, but then all the white Westerners, some Westerners, but especially the white ones, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Ukrainians, ex-Russians that living in the United States, Canadians, they're just all full like Hawaiians are savage. You're freaking backwards. You have to support Putin or you're a genocider. People, they even say things like, what's another one? Let me see if I can find that one. They were like, where was it? It's like, this person didn't even bother to talk to anyone. I mean, how do you know who I'm talking to? Right? Let me see if I can find that one. I'm sorry. This thing has been viewed. It's got 8,000 something likes, and it blew up big time. It's at 331,000 people looking at it, right? So the majority of the replies though are, no matter what the stripe, no matter what the political tendency, it's all from the white people. It's all straight up racist, and it's all it's basically pro colonization, and they're not. They don't. I don't think they consciously understand that. you're a bunch of fat lazy assholes who deserve to be colonized. And if Hawaii becomes free, how are you gonna get your cheap spam? That's what this very nice leftist ostensibly was telling me. Um, it's like it's people of color, like and non men that are like, this fellow literally talked to no one from Ukraine before tweeting this. How do you know who I talked to? I didn't talk to spooky skunkly trash dog, right? So a lot of people they even have anti-fascists in their name. Like Asian people are like, please share this, right? The people from Pan African global South people are like, we need to stop this illegal annexation. Banning language and culture is what started all of this in Ukraine also, by the way. I'm sorry, this is more off the topic, but I just want to go through this because I think it deserves some highlighting. The U.S. is talking about the U.S. My point is that, like, if you want to have a good faith, like the U.S., we are not going to do any more annexations. We are not going to be a-holes. We're going to not mistreat any people. You should de-annex Hawaii because the UN has literally said you are illegal occupation. The U.S. should be actively moving in that direction, but that's not the direction. My point is that, like, you're so concerned about those people over there. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be concerned about people in that region of the world in Eastern Europe, but it's like your own country is doing even to far more people exactly what you say is bad, in Eastern Europe. So I mean, but everybody is jumping to, well, you must be a Putin shill or something. Nowhere did I ever say Putin is the best thing in the world and Russia did nothing wrong and Russia deserves the entire. This is all Westerners reading that in because of their unaddressed racism, white supremacy. Doesn't matter left, right, or center, and Western exceptionalism. Trying to find so it's the people who are it's basically every single person that has ever reshared this and has like just been like, this is listen to this. It's like it's all not white people basically. I can't think other than like Holly. I can't actually think of anyone that I've read through, and I've read through a lot of these because the Palestinian was like, please support our rights. Puerto Ricans were like, hey, this is why we don't want to become a state. We are suffering like hell under the U.S. occupation and the U.S. fraudulent stealing of our country, right? And I'm trying to find those people. But to get to those, I got to weed through 2,000 so-called leftist, center, and right-wing American, Canadian, and European, Australian, New Zealand, and Japan. Sometimes they're Japanese. There's some anime avatars. I'm always kind of horrified. I'm like, that's the worst because they're all about having sex till people die. That's the anime threat. It's all the Gamergate people. That's why they're white people that are weeaboo Nazi, children of rich white Amazon executives, and then you've got and they're all hanging out on 4chan and Reddit, and then you've got the playing Cyberpunk 2077 and believing it's the best thing since sliced bread, and then you've got actual Japanese fascists in Japan that are all like Shinzo Abe supporters. Anyways, most of the really bad shit was at the very beginning. How about both are bad? Is that hurt so hard? You see, I did not say like both. I didn't say that one is not good, but it's always, who is this, right? Who are the people? Who are these people? Mr. British flag. It's always those people. Both of these things are bad, Mr. British flag. Thanks for that. Anyways, I'm not. The really nasty crap was at the very beginning. It was like when I first put the thread out. But this thing has like, I don't know, hundreds of cold tweets on it already. So, it's like, it's like colonizers don't do referenda. So the United States never had a referendum in Hawaii when they annexed Hawaii. This is the one. See, when you have an anime avatar, right? That's how you know. When you have anime avatar, what the fuck is a fill cell? Anglo uh, it's always bad news. You see anime Avatar, it's probably gonna be some stupid or racist or just fascist stuff like this. So this is a person saying, that was awesome when the United States occupied and colonized Hawaii. So thanks for that. Thanks for that, white person with an Asian cartoon avatar. And commies, I'm not saying, I'm not saying that imperialism isn't. I'm not saying that imperialism good, obviously. But a lot of them were just like, oh, just grow up and don't. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Well, a person literally called himself a troll, so I guess that's legitimate. I'm just here to yell at people of color all over the internet. So okay, so you're stupid. Russianization that you sure you won't be surprised if your dummy taxes are used against to justify oppression by Americans because you're actually like, so Hawaiians are stupid. Okay, thanks a lot for that. Ukraine flag, NATO flag. So that leftist Ukraine NATO flag saying Hawaiians are stupid. Thanks for that. You're really making the case for your countries. Let's look at this person. I'm not gonna translate that shit. I had like in the very beginning there was like a ton of just fucking fash coming out with Ukraine flags all over the place. When I translate these stuff, it's all like I hope that your Hawaiian leaders all get killed and shit. Both events are not equal, actually. The U.S. expanded to a country with no connection to it, while Eastern Ukraine is urbanized industrial center of Russian-speaking population, who we, by the way, have records of the support for Russia for previous years. So I mean, like, and then you have like, for people to actually understand, and then it's like anyways, okay, I'm gonna stop going through this because I'm gonna get stuck in that. But I wanted to show like how many people were responding to that, and a lot of people who had a comment that was like, Hawaiians deserve to be colonized. You don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. You love Russia and Putin. Stop saying this. I mean, the point is that like, it's obviously like the what the situation is in that. I don't have the time to talk about what the situation is there. And even if I say go research it, if you research it in a Western source, it's difficult. It's like telling people research what's happening in the Middle East in the middle of the New York testimony. Like when the West is going to war with the place, there is no information. It's all sucked into a black hole, and there's only propaganda about that particular place. After the fact, it's very hard to find information. Like during the Nazi coup in 2014. So I can't even really say go do research. I mean, I don't even know what the fucking solution is. I'm just trying my best. You got to go watch Danny Haifong. Listen to international sources outside of the Western world. I'm not saying like don't look at any source that's from a English speaking country, but like you anyway, it is information and narrative warfare. It is at the highest planetary levels, right? It is imperialist versus multipolar, counter-hegemonic, disproportionately former colonized peoples informational warfare. So I can't really say research it because anything you're going to find in the English language that's easy to find, doesn't matter if it's Google. I mean, every tech company is fully complacent in this, so you're not going to find it, right? That's why I do streams like this that are not, I'm just putting fucking random old 80s and 90s and sometimes newer movies and video games up there, because if I do anything else, like what happened to Empire Files, thousands of hours of the videos deleted. What happened to Redacted Tonight, wiped off of countless other YouTube videos, Instagram. They have to like jump to brand new platforms that have a lot smaller audiences. What happened to Scott Ritter? Gone off of multiple platforms. Twitter, lost his YouTube channel. I saw him trying to chat in just voice with people the other day. What happened? It's informational warfare. So that's why I'm like, I should probably not be saying all this. But understand that when you are in that informational warfare, what side are you actually on? Like what is your side actually for? That's a question you should ask, number one. Number two, I mean, if it's actually like not listening to anything at all from the any Western orbit sort of place might actually cause you less brain damage than turning on even a so-called credible source. Because what even is a credible source? Do you understand? It's like you cannot use any phone, any internet, any media source, any television, any radio, anything outside of racist, capitalist, plutocrat, imperialist controlled infrastructure, right? You know, you don't really see this until you're an indigenous person in a colony like Hawaii, watching the entire cable, the undersea super cable that takes the entire that transmits the entire internet for the Big Island was literally severed. You know, like blowing up a Nord Stream pipeline, like the CIA did. They literally cut the internet off, and so it was crawling at the speed of like 1 kilobyte per second in the middle of our protest to literally black out all the information exiting this island of the Big Island of Hawaii, right? So but if you're inside the matrix of that, you're inside the Death Star. You're just playing around in the arcade. You don't even know what the hell you're doing. You have to actually be fully outside. You have to be like living, not even on a tourist vacation in Thailand or Africa, somewhere in Africa or somewhere in South America. You have to be actually like living as an indigenous or as a person in that colony, and then trying to, exist, right? It's not really. That's one thing that I can't really be mad at those people, as horrible as the shit they're saying. Like, I hope that Lilio. I hope that I'm gonna send Nazi Hitler. I'm gonna send. That's obviously not needed. Hitler is a Nazi, but I'm gonna send Hitler back in a time machine, and I'm gonna have a bunch of Nazis gang rape your Lilio Kalani. That's one of the things that somebody said to me. So, but I'm like, you think that because you're surrounded by media and people and right-wing local circles, international circles, English, French, Spanish, in all the European language speaking voices of America that are armed, that are funded and backed, the Patriot Socialists, the new MAGA communists, all these people, the Red Brown Alliance, all the right wing everywhere in the West is constantly funded and armed. It's the only thing that they will ever pay for. Military, weapons, Lockheed, missiles, infinite money for the imperialists to jack up the price of rice in North Africa, or, package overpriced, McMansions in Florida. There's infinite money for banking, for military, guns and money, for the richest imperialists and racists. And then there's money for Nazis, the far right, the not as wealthy extremists. And so I'm like, of course you're gonna say stuff like that. That's like when I released Neofeud. I'm like, this is the same kind of things. When I released Neofeud, they said like, you're a freaking N-word. I hope you die in a fire. You're green hair. You are a green-haired, screeching, wokest woman, and you're a freaking N-word at the same time. The same person claiming that in Steam reviews, and like on Reddit and on 4chan and in their YouTube and Twitch videos, they're like saying Silver Spook is a nasty, lying N-word, and also a screeching white-haired woman, feminist cancer. So, but it's like, of course you're gonna say that, because that's all the West supports, right? That's how Trump got elected, because America is made of people like him, and that's what they don't want to admit. The liberals' job is to go, oh no, it's just our sad white working class. They're just so misunderstood. They're all sad boys. Like all the sad boys that were killing all of the people, all the Jewish people in Germany in 1940s, or the ones that are assaulting Jewish people in 2022, the highest rate of anti-Semitic violence, 2022, in Germany. They're just sad, misunderstood German boys, right? They're just sad, misunderstood, Ukrainians who are shelling 14,000 plus people in the Donbass and Luhansk region. They're just misunderstood. Just like, help their material conditions a little bit. I'm not saying you should, but if we just like, I don't know, listen to them a little bit more, like listen to them screech Nazi propaganda, maybe they'll stop killing innocent ethnic minority Russians based on the language they speak. It is the same. The reason why the United States annexed Hawaii, and the reason why the U.S. is supporting the people in Ukraine, is because they're in both cases, it has to do with culture and language. The U.S. wanted to eradicate Hawaiian culture and language. They banned Hawaiian culture and language when they annexed Hawaii, and the U.S. actions in Ukraine resulted in the deaths and suffering and oppression, like shooting and bombing to death of Russian speaking and culturally practicing populations. It's actually this, but the annexation is in two different directions. Like one is moving in another. I mean, I'm not saying that it's good that there's an invasion, but I'm just saying like people don't deserve to be shelled and killed. You know, like Hawaiians weren't shelling and killing white people in Hawaii by the tens of thousands when the U.S. annexed Hawaii fraudulently. That's what I'm saying, right? Because that's the equivalent. But nobody knows that story because everyone lives in a disinformation bubble. So I don't even know how do I even fucking talk about that thing. You kind of can't almost. It's like it's amazing how successful the that's why when I say you can follow me on the Death Star satellites when I talk about Twitter, because like every single platform, including this one, you know, it's kind of weird that they're you know, if I was controlling Death Star satellites, I would you know, I mean, I don't know what their exact strategy. I think they don't have enough manpower as part of it to whack-a-mole every single global South and international voice when 90% of the world and the global South, the money. See, the thing is, the money that's being generated by the eyeballs and the time and energy in India and China. China surpassed the United States. India surpassed Britain. Africa is the fastest growing in the world. The global South, the non-Western aligned countries, is 90% of the Earth's population, and it's 2/3 plus of the world's economy. And so, international corporations like Twitter, like Facebook, like and all of the media companies, they're stuck in a place where they can't really whack-a-mole all of the Black, the African, and the Asian, and Latin American, and the counter-hegemonic voices, because they would lose market shares in those places, and they don't really have the know-how, the manpower, and etc. to really control that in a way that, you know, it's really, if they could uninvent social media, I think that the Western imperialists would. But anyways, that's a long discussion. I'm like way off my topic, but it has been on my mind this whole week because I've been bombarded with again all that nonsense. So it's been like it's been interesting though, because it's like, oh, I see where the West is. That's where you guys really are, and it's really interesting. Anyways, but let's go back to Tank Girl. But you know, so how can I tie that back in? If the people, right? If the people who are engaged in this assholism, right, who are lecturing me, a native Hawaiian, about how to be a native Hawaiian, and saying, I don't care about Hawaii. I don't really care about Hawaii, right? I'm going to give a token. Oh, yeah, it's maybe one time there might have been an annexation or something. Maybe, who cares? But this one is really important, right? It's like, it's not maybe one time there was annexation. Hawaiians are the number one most, the shortest life expectancy, most mass incarcerated, 1.6 times more incarcerated than Black people in the United States, which are 2.5 times more incarcerated than white people. Anyway, I run the statistics and the white people are just glazing their eyes. All I want to talk about is how we're going to send $50 billion more to Ukraine and all of our Nazis. I'm sorry, patriotic people in Ukraine, right? And it's like, if you could stop being an asshole, if the entire West collectively, right, could somehow figure out a way to just like stop being a freaking asshole like the other 8,458 people, about 2/3 of them, right? Well, actually, that's people who like this thing. If the people who have seen this thread, right, many thousands of them have been complete assholes, you know, and it's like the ones who are actually responding. For the ones who are responding, everyone who responds to the thread, there's another 10 that are looking at it and they're thinking asshole things in their head, but they don't have they don't feel like being a white reply guy today, or they're just they're just browsing on their phone or whatever. They don't reply generally. And those people are thinking in their head, that savage Hawaiian, that backward Hawaiian. Why doesn't that backward Hawaiian? Why doesn't I see Big Teals in the chat. Big Teal, I know you are going to encounter this, right? Why isn't that Black woman getting online with me with this war against authoritarians, right? Or why isn't this Black, brown, indigenous, global South person getting on board with my tariffs and my sanctions against these evil countries? Why aren't they supporting this? Why aren't they supporting that, right? And that's all. They don't really want to listen, right? They're over Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter's done. I haven't seen any Black Lives anything. It's like you say Black Lives Matter, all you do is you get accused of wokeism, right? It's like black people are all good now. What we have to do is throw all the money we don't have into a needless war in Europe. Why aren't all the black and brown and Asian people in line with that? You know, and it's like if you could like actually like stop doing that, stop being an asshole, like listen to what we're actually saying, like actually listen, not like, oh yeah, something happened bad that was in Hawaii, but you got spam now, right? You got reconstituted pork shoulder full with ultra high levels of fat and salt that's killing you with diabetes at the age of 39. So you should be happy, Hawaii, right? If you could stop being an asshole, right, and like actually listen, then we wouldn't have to. I'm saying I shouldn't say anything like that. Then you would not be at risk of being de-assholified. You know what I'm saying? Because Italy is led by a Mussolini too. So the chances of you being de-assholified, you know what I'm saying? The chances of if you are scared of Russian tanks and what some evil country, evil country. If you're scared of Chinese invasions in California and Russian tanks and Chinese, belligerents in the South China Sea, and oh no, what if they sail up into what if the Chinese sail up the Hudson River and up into Lake Erie? Oh no, right? If you are worried about that, that's not what they're planning. They're not planning to do any of that stuff, right? But if your country is full of Nazis, you should read an actual history book. And I know there's not that many in the United States, certainly not in their formal education system. Find a history book in Cuba or Vietnam or, an African country, somewhere, Bolivia, Venezuela. Find an actual history book somewhere. Get it translated. You see how hard it is to get information in the Western world? I know it's hard. I admit it's not easy. Read an actual history book, right? And see what actually happens to fascists and Nazis and people who treat people based on arbitrary differences like the language, skin color, culture, religion, and see what places like Russia and China have done to those people, right? It's not good, But I'm not to scare you. That's just history, And you're not looking too strong right now, nuclear. I don't want to talk about nuclear weapons, but it's ridiculous. It's like some people are going like, we don't want to have to do this the hard way, but you keep on like making it very hard to not do it the hard way, So if you are a white person in America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, UK, France, et cetera, right? I'm just saying, if you cannot de-assholify yourself, who knows, It's not like we're gonna do that. We're just in Hawaii. We're just trying to not have poison in our water. But I mean, somebody else might do it, And if you threaten them, you can't. You're not gonna win a war with either of those countries. Nobody's gonna win the war with Russia. Russia and NATO is not. That's the end of the world. Russia and China. Russia and China against the United States. China and the United States. None of this. This is all nuclear end of the world, right? So that's not what's gonna happen. But you know what could happen? What could happen is balkanization of your place, especially in Europe, right? Balkanization. That's what, because Tony, what's his name? The Biden administration came out yesterday, said when Ukraine asked to join NATO, they're like, we're going to table that discussion and we'll pick it up at a later time. So if you are in Europe, just remember that the U.S., powers are fine with balkanizing off your Nazi-filled country, right? Your Stepan Bandera fascist-filled country. They're going to table you for another time, sell weapons to your far right, and get all of you Germans killed, right? Or get all of you French killed, or whoever, right? Just like suddenly you don't have nuclear. France and Germany are running out of power. You have to nationalize the power grids, and then look at that. America is happy with everyone else dying, so that a tiny minority of the Brussels top richest and America's richest will come out on top. If the U.S. could figure out a way to denuclearize Germany and France and then back a denazification versus Nazification war there, right? Subnuclear war. That is what might happen, on top of the sanctions that will cause your electricity and food and all of your economy to vaporize. So it's really in the best interest of all of the people of everywhere to self-de-assholeify, stop being a fucking racist, right? You should really do that instead of enabling your family, friends, and community to just go, well, we just want National Socialism for the real Americans and the real Italians and the real Germans. It's the same thing happened in World War II. America made a lot of money in World War II, getting all of Europe killed and then coming out on top. That's how it was the American century, is because America slaughtered Europe for money to stop the spread of communism, right? To stop the spread of the Russians and their tanks coming west to denazify. So if you're in Europe, it is in your best interest to self-denazify. And they just using Asian symbols in Germany now. The Asian symbols, it's not swastikas in Germany. It's just Asian symbols that are Sieg-heiling down the streets of Berlin, killing Jewish people. It's not that bad, really. Berlin is very progressive, right? Rome is very progressive. It's not like we had a Holy Roman Empire that went around the fucking huge swaths of the planet, killing and pillaging and murdering and genociding. We're very progressive in Italy. Look, we have wine and we have some healthcare one time. Yeah, Mussolini put it in place. Did you know that? You know what happened to the fascists? Do you know what's going to happen when the United States runs out of Ukrainians to kill? I mean, yeah, they're just going to come west. So you might want to think about that. I mean, or don't. Anyways, so we're like way off topic, but but that was like full mask off solar spook moments for the last hour. But anyways, no. Again, I want to reiterate though. I'm not saying that the annexation. I don't have enough information to say one way or the other. Like I don't feel confident saying that. I don't support invasion. I don't say like it's good that Russia came there. That in fact it's good that what Russia calls the special military operations and what is being called by the West, of course, the invasion and the Russian war in Ukraine. Again, that's a back and forth. That's part of the difficulty of getting the truth. But anyways, I just want to say I'm not in support of any wars anywhere. I don't want any wars anywhere. Ideally, we have global peace. Ideally, we have global peace. But just as you should not allow a somewhat peaceful situation that has people that are being spat on and regarded as subhuman or less than people based on their ethnicity, whether that's Native American, indigenous people, whether that's black people, whether that's gay, trans, and women. I'm not saying like that. That's not some of the. There's some not good conservatism in Russia. That's not. It's not like they're not a perfect country. They're not like socialists on the path as in the way that some other places are, like Cuba, etc. Right? But it's like and so they'll have to deal with that and they'll have to question that. So I'm not saying like it's so great that there's Russians in Ukraine, but anyways, I'm just trying to say is that if you have to you can't undo your own problems, and you certainly, when you're speaking about other people's actions, if you are not actively fighting to stop your own, clean your own internal house, which most of these people are not doing, although otherwise the United States wouldn't be falling into a far right Trump 2.0 hellscape, which is Biden is already Trump 2.0. So, right, and that's part of the upset of people of color going like, what happened? Black Lives Matter, and now you're all over here going, sit down and shut up, people of color. So, and that's the frustration. It's like that's what this tweet is. But this tweet is, you calling that a sham. It's, you don't have the evidence, but we absolutely do have the evidence of that Native Hawaiians disproportionately, absolutely, like almost all of them were against the annexation, and not only were they, we still are against the annexation today, and and you should be against that. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? But that's a hard. People can't handle that. They're like, stop talking Hawaiian. Stop talking. America can only do good things. America can only do good things. And the number of people that are saying America can only do good things is very troubling to this moment, right? And so that's kind of what I was saying. Because some people ask like, Silver Spook, are you pro invasions? I'm like, no, because if I was pro invasions, then I have to be like, oh well, I'm happy when Hawaii gets invaded by the United States. And obviously, I'm not happy about that. You see, that's the point of that tweet. Anyways, okay. So Big Teal says, and Hungarian colleagues, I think China's imperialist. But anyways, let's get, everybody's like, what is this? The Silver Spooks politics hour? I don't ever do politics. I don't even know what politics is. Is that like when there are many ticks? Like there are very large insects all over your body, draining you, exsanguinating you of your blood source. They're like little vampire arthropods. Is that what a polytick is? Many ticks? I don't know what a polytick is. I've never heard of it. Anyways, I'm gonna go look it up on see if I can get it on Steam though. Sounds fun. Tank Girl and De-A-hole-Ization though. So but I think that's part of the De-A-hole-Ization is understanding what before on the track was, in their family, right? And this is kind of like for the people who are like any government, any group, any association is bad, right? Like AGAB, all government bad. This is more for like the anarchists. I mean, I say like there's not a place for the tendency necessarily. But there's people who are like any group of any size, and if you have like what counts as a group? Number one, what counts as a government, right? It's like even in a small organization, there's some way of making decisions and deciding what to do. Like this is the thing that happens. This is why you don't have a lot of successful of a particular tendency places where millions and millions of people are alleviated from their shackles of colonialism, capitalism, racism, etc. Right? And then there's a lot of failed actions. There's a lot of like support that you can give just by being mad at government, but just being mad generally at government is not to say not sophisticated, but it's like it's just like being all men bad, just like men bad, which obviously like a lot of them, but but just being like, so anybody, trans men bad, anyone who has a penis bad is just bad, right? I mean, toxic masculinity is a problem, we don't want to have disproportionate violence. We don't want to have patriarchal structures, right? And so, in the same way that you want to be like, well, my point is that there are situations where people will come together, right, and based on their mutual consensual agreement, they're going to want to do something, like for example sex, right? Like that's actually the song in Tank Girl is the bees do it, the birds do it, even frogs that are Japanese do it. I know that's not the lyrics, but I just made up things that rhyme. Let's fall in love. So like if you have consensual, and there are Tank Girl is not just like I hate all the men, I'm gonna kill every man. Now there is Man Corp, but I mean that's it's like toxic Man Corp. But Tank Girl does kill a lot of dudes and a lot of ones that are trying to have sex with Tank Girl and are misogynists. But it's like, but if there is an actual mutual consensual equal relationship between the two people, she has a relationship with like this dude. And Tank Girl has a community, right, that support each other with mutual aid, mutual win-win cooperation, right? I'm trying to find Tank Girl, the house that they're in the very beginning. Yeah. So they're living in this. It's not a very nice house, right? But it's in the middle of an apocalyptic, desertified. I think it's Australia, right? Because it's a lot of desert. Mad Max is filmed there, etc. And they're all living in this house. It's run down. It's in a dystopian apocalypse. But I mean, one thing I like about Tank Girl, speaking of dystopian fiction specifically, right? Because I talked a lot about how like dystopian fiction a lot of times is it's Western projection and anti-communist and anti-Asian propaganda. What I was talking about specifically, Orwell, the word Orwellian, the doublespeak being a double standard, and the number one double speaker country is the same country that produced the Orwell that invented the term quote unquote doublespeak. Anyways, but with this, at least with Tank Girl, it's like even in the apocalypse, there are still people who have communities, and everyone's not just individuals out for themselves killing everyone else, right? I think that's an important difference between like Tank Girl and some other dystopian fiction where everyone is just everyone is a lone wolf, Mad Max, strong man with a gun. They're like cis heteronormative patriarchal cowboys like John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, just running around with their gun, right? Individually, right? There's I talk about you look up Ayn Rand's the number one anti-communist in the Cold War, her authorship of the motion picture the Motion Picture Association for the Preservation of American Values guide for U.S. Hollywood films, right? Which specifically said you want to have strong individuals, never glorify and never glamorize and never support collective action communities, because that's communism and that is degenerate and that's bad and that's not American. American is the country, and the number one American ideal is individuality, individual, private interest, private property under capitalism, right? And anyways, and so a lot of dystopian fiction, like the cowboy movies, that were designed that specifically that way. It is not accident, right? Killing the savage Indians, white men civilizing. So it's airbrushing the history of colonialism, benefiting white supremacy, the arms industry, and breaking the positive image of collective action, of unions, whatever the Wobblies. My grandpa was a Wobbly, by the way, in Hawaii, actually, where actually a lot of the left of the United States came out of Hawaii. But anyways, whatever the collective left that was, poor working class, there's still a lot of unaddressed racism in a lot of places and sexism, but still, whatever there was of that was being intentionally shattered by Hollywood, among other things, by projecting strong individuals. And then later on in the 1980s, under the neoliberal era, there can be only one, make it to the top by yourself, climb the Nakatomi Plaza building and get to the top as a corporate, lean in. If you're, they let a few women in, as long as you're willing to get your office job as a corporate executive and also be a wife, do two jobs, and so then, but the projection of individuals is always as very important, is, definitely in dystopian fiction, something that's, it is a big problem, it lends us to this mentality of, when the apocalypse happens, I'm going to eat my neighbor. I'm going to get my guns, my ammo, my MREs, right? That's what was Alex Jones selling? A bunch of water purification chips, MREs, ammunition for his family. I'm going to defend my family on my homestead. I'm going to kill all of my nasty neighbors. I'm going to purge them all, like in The Purge, right? And there's this mentality of the society, right? It's like Dahmer and all these cop and serial killer movies are about. Everyone else is my enemy, and I have to be a strong individual, armed to the nines, ready to defend my family. And also I have to fund the police and the military and militarize the police so that they can kill all the bad Jeffrey Dahmers and the black people with hoodies and all of the Spanish drug lords coming out of the ghettos for my suburb. And I gotta have guns, and everyone has to have 25 guns and machine guns, ninja stars, nunchucks, throwing stars, grenades, high explosive devices, grenade launchers, hopefully a Boeing jet, and maybe 25 Northrop Grumman tanks. Only punk girls should have tanks, and Vietnamese women. Everyone else, no tank for you. You have too many already. Especially too many Lockheed Martin aircraft and too many Hellfire missiles. You got to put them down. But this idea is like it's me against all those other bad people out there, right? Is dystopian fiction. Where Tank Girl, it's like they live in this house and there's a community of people, and some of them are this dude and Tank Girl. I'm sorry, that's not Tank Girl. That's my Tank Girl. But anyways, so that's actually more like Jet from Tank Girl. But anyways, so the point is that in the community, if you have people that come together, even in a dystopian, a very difficult circumstance, like in a hurricane, for example, like in Florida right now, then people come together and help each other to survive, to thrive, for sex, for to benefit from mutual exchange of skills. Like, oh, I know how to cook very good, and I know how to fix windows and doors, and you know how to fix roofs and garden, and you, the third person, you know how to do computers, and fix when our internet goes out, and whatever else. Or you're very funny and entertaining and good at art and telling stories. So the community benefits from people with not one person can be good at everything. That's another myth of libertarianism, and that's a problem with a lot of the people who go hard on any group is bad, right? And any governing anything, any decision making, it's really, you should just say decision making structure for a group, right, is bad, right? Is like, that doesn't end up, that's not actually how people work, and certainly that's not like a way that has proven to be beneficial to the planet and the people and the human people and the other species generally, I don't think, right? But it is an American tendency, certainly, because the selfish individual easily morphs into the anarchist individual, or the people who are like, I just hate any structure is bad, right? And Tangerel is certainly like very anti-structure, I like giving middle fingers, very, very rebel to any authority figure, for sure. But it's important that it's like there are groups that Tank Girl does become affiliated with, even if she never really loses the punk attitude. That's like the whole show is her like basically giving Malcolm McDowell the finger in 25 different ways. It's like the whole movie. She gives the rich white guy the finger 25 different ways as the punk chick, as the riot girl. But anyways, so Tank, but it's like but there are situations in which you might actually want to associate with those people, as long as that association with those people, right, in whether that's the sexual relationship, whether that's a friend relationship, whether that's the community relationship, whether that's the economic relationship, right, or whatever it is, then those, number one, those are important. Number two, those for humans who are social animals. Number two, to survive generally and to exist in the world. The myth of the strong, selfish individual can only perpetuate itself under a global imperialism and plunder regime, which the United States, as a white first world colonizer country, was and is, right? Because you alone can't make your individual gun. You didn't pump out all of those Doritos that you're eating. You don't even know where they came from, right? That's kind of the whole game of the global imperial colonizer system, is to erase all of the indigenous and non-white disproportionately, all the little Oompa Loompas, all the little worker bees, all the little slaves, right, doing all the work so you can be a strong individual white dude, right, or apocalypse survivor, right? It's like these are fantasy land. You're not individual. You depend on the labor of all those unseen workers, but even more so the global South colonized workers, and sometimes internally colonized workers who are paid far less and do the most important essential labor. So anyways, and so there are no people that are individually surviving on the earth ever, really, unless you're like literally born on an island. You can't really, this can't really happen unless you're with no parents, just left as an infant. You would have died. Or actually, nobody survives as an individual with, at minimal, their primary caregiver when they're born, their mother, their parents, whoever they were, to protect them when they are defenseless, can't even eat without their mother there, or without their parent to feed them. You're completely defenseless. That whole time you were never independent, and whatever you were nourished with and given the resources and time and the care that was given to you, that's all part of your non-independence and your connection and your relationality to the entire web of the ecologically and systemically, fundamentally interconnected web of all of existence that you are. You're not an individual out in the middle of nowhere. So, which is, and that's, and so like now some connections, like obviously are abusive threads in the web, and those are the ones that have to be de-assholeified. And so anyway, so Tank Girl and so yeah. So what I want to say was, I kind of like spiraling out of my own mind right now because of thinking about. I probably shouldn't have gone into that thread, but too late. But this, so Tank Girl has relationships with different characters throughout the movie. With a kangaroo, a group of kangaroo dudes, one of which is Ice-T. So I can find that one. The Rippers. Let me slow down a little bit. That might help. Yeah. So Tank Girl finds a group of the kangaroos. They're U.S. military genetic experiments to design a super soldier by hybridizing and tweaking human and animal DNA. It's like it happens in Neofeud as well, but that's science fiction dystopian future boilerplate. But the kangaroo dudes are a group that have like they've now escaped their military commanders. I forget the exact backstory on that. They're now living basically underground and trying to survive. They believe theyre's no weapons. They're not Black Panthers, but it has a very like Black Panther-y underground organization. It's very like and I think there's the leaders are at least two of them. One of them is Ice-T and the other one is a black person. I'm not sure. I forgot what the name is. He's the guy who plays the saxophone. It has a very like colonized people banding together, trying to resist in whatever way they can underground. I'm not saying that that's what it is. I mean, that's the feeling that it has, right? And then Tank Girl, these thrown out military experiments, half human, half kangaroo people, are the ones who are actually fighting and blowing up the water and power corporations, tanks and electrical lines, and they are the ones causing the major problems, right? So Water and Power, this horrible corporation run by Malcolm McDowell, right? This dude is hoarding the water. He literally like uses this device that he sticks into people's bodies who I don't know, disappoint him in a Darth Vader sense, and sucks all the water out of their body. Kind of like in Dune, where the water is recycled of every individual because water is extremely scarce. It hasn't rained in decades, and he sucks all the water out of a body. And then he like drinks it to make it look at how evil I am, basically, which is like, he's actually not even as evil as a lot of leaders of the Western world. He's certainly not as evil as, some people in the neocon groups. But anyways, so this guy is, they kill a lot more people than he ever has. So he's sucking the water out of people, and controlling all the water in the world. He is running that control with military and police, constant, pressure, threat, and killings. Like the Water and Power Corporation basically attack and kill the family of Tank Girl, that the found family, that would be considered a family in actually progressive Cuba, and so that's part of the major plot. So she's had to leave because of what they've done there. They kidnap her, the child who is kind of like an adopted dependent of Tank Girl, and but these people are nearly in control of the world. It's very much like the United States or just the colonizer world, the Western imperialist capitalist world. They threaten everyone with guns and weapons. They make tons of money, overcharging people for privatized resources, and they're disproportionately run by white guys like this guy. It's very clear. And then you have the resistance against them are the underground, global south. It's kind of like it's like Zion in the Matrix, kind of, in a certain way. Disproportionately non-white, disproportionately black and brown. Outside of the massive Plato's cave, digital Plato's cave of streaming kanji and binary code, that is the Matrix, right? The people in the Matrix are the people outside of that who are trying to resist the entire system of massive worldwide oppression. And so those people in Tangrel are kind of represented. I'm not saying that the kangaroo people, Rippers, are the same as the people of Zion and the Matrix, but it's very similar. It's played by Lawrence Fishburne. And Tank and Dozer are like Hispanic and Global South, African, South Central American and Asian and etc. people. That's who makes up the most of those people. Inside the Matrix, the agents are disproportionately white dudes who run everything, disinform everyone. And so, anyways, I'm on the Matrix. So Tangrel like chooses to work with them, right? She chooses to work with them. She's not like forced to work with them. She's not like they don't say, So now technically they're doing military action, right? And they have an organization, right? It's not, they don't have a huge organization, but they have organization of sorts. They have a committee where they make democratic decisions, right? Unlike the corporation, unlike Water and Power, which has a board of directors of the richest and most powerful, disproportionately white guys, right? So I can find Water and Power. So like the Water and Power, so I can get the board. Yeah. The Tangrel, Power executives, just so you can get a idea of who is on them. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to find it, I don't think. Okay, anyways, so but you get the idea, right? They're huge. They're a huge corporation. They've got all these rich. It's like, imagine Bezos, Gates, and Musk, and a bunch of people like them standing around in a room toasting each other over all their privatized water, right? And so they don't have any democracy. They basically do. The richest, most powerful guy basically threatens everyone else. And sometimes the other executives and rich and powerful guys have solidarity. Other times they stab each other in the back to try to take power, which is what happens, right? That's the U.S. And Germany right now. The U.S. is stabbing Germany in the back and going like, you're gonna run out of power and water. You're gonna run out of power, certainly. You're gonna run out of power and gas, and you're gonna run out of your products, and we're gonna put Nazis in you, and you're all gonna go bankrupt. 20% of German firms are going under right now. 60% of British business, I think, are going under. So the U.S., but not that the UK and Germany don't have their internal problems, but that's like inter-imperial rivalries stabbing each other in the back. And so whereas in the Rippers community, they actually have everyone actually does have one person, one vote sort of way of making decisions. Which I think that's actually important. It's kind of like a little side thing, but I think that is important in the show, to differentiate them from the way that decisions are made in the Water and Power white racist capitalist organization. Anyways, so and then they, Tangrel works with them. She works with some of the other people that she meets along the way. I can't remember all of them. Jet is one of the people that used to work for the giant corporation, and it's kind of being like sexually harassed and assaulted constantly, but it's very like, if you just Jet in Tangrel is played by Naomi Watts. Is that what it is? Let's see if I can find that. And she's kind of like in the corporation. She's kind of like the professional managerial millennial who is like scared to, or Gen Xer who is kind of like scared to come out, not come out. Well, yeah, well, maybe that too, but yeah, certainly in the 20th century, scared to resist against her bosses, right? It's like, if you just keep your head down, Jet's job is to fix the jets, literally the jets and the military machinery, like the tanks, etc. And Jet is like, I just have to like keep my head down and just like submit to the white man and his rich, powerful corporation's authority, and then things get bad when you try to fight back. So we should just do our jobs and things will be better that way, right? And Tangrel's like, no, you can't do that. What do you have to fight back? So it's very much like Tangrel's trying to like insert girl power and anti-capitalist tendencies, trying to like kind of union salt the more, I mean, not necessarily like bad, but just like keeping her head down worker for the corporation, who is also being constantly hit on and belittled and hit on at the same time. It's like how a lot of cis dudes, 63% of whom don't have dates, right? They make up 63% of all the Tinder app people, and yet I've talked about this a lot with the She-Hulk and the previous YouTube videos recently. And he's kind of doing that. He's just like hitting on her, but simultaneously like berating her, belittling her, and being a real dickhead to her. And she's just like, please stop. I don't really have time for that. And he just keeps on like, you're gonna have sex with me. You're freaking stuck up this and that. And it's like, it's a kind of average Western and sometimes not even that dude attitude that she is having to deal with. And certainly all the people that are reading too much Jordan Peterson and getting mad about She-Hulk twerking and getting upset that Don't Worry Darling is personally calling out the way that Hollywood and most of show business and most of business operates, which is sexually harassing and gaslighting the women workers and having sex with them and threatening them with, well, you'll be out of a job if you don't get on that casting couch, right? So it's kind of like, and the dude is basically doing that, like, I am a dude and I'm on the board here. I'm important in this corporation, and so you should really want to have sex with me and date me because I'm such a nice guy. Look how nice I'm being. I'm like so nice right now. I'm not even hitting you. I'm just like verbally berating you and stalking you and blocking you into spaces that you can't get out of without physically trying to resist. And I'm bigger than you. And look how nice I am. So, that character is very much like, and so anyway, so Tank Girl like works with Jet eventually, right? In a mutually beneficial organization. Jet fixes the tank and prepares the jet and it gets into battles with the Tank Girl. Tank Girl works with, again, she has a relationship with her boyfriend until he gets killed in their collective, and then she has another relationship with the one of the bunny boys. I mean the kangaroo kids. I mean the Rippers. I lost them. There they are. Not Ice-T, but Ice-T is kind of the asshole one of them. But anyways, he's an ex-cop, so which is better than, unfortunately, like Ice-T plays too many cops nowadays. But at least in this one, he was just an ex-cop. He did co-produce and he wrote a major song for it. And also Ice-T is in Johnny Mnemonic, another similar show with similar kind of undertones to it. Anyways, so but Tank Girl is at different times, like in these different groups, working with them to mutual benefit. But then when there are asshole situations, then the tank comes out, and then the tank blows those people away. Like, for example, all the soldiers that are trying to kill her, right? Or sometimes it's in the beginning, she just has all kind of guns, but then when she finds a tank, she falls in love with the giant tank. It's like, it's so big, and then and then uses the tank to fight and blow up and kill people who are not treating other people, especially her, with respect and with mutual benefit. So which is, I mean, why did I point all that out? Because that's different from some conceptions of the dystopia, which is that like everyone is out to kill you, right? Like, I don't know, like in Fallout there are some like towns. I would say Fallout is actually not as bad. That's probably not the number one example. It's like things like there's like The Last of Us. Zombie apocalypses can be pretty nasty. I don't want to show any zombies, but you've got things like The Last of Us. You've got things like places in the dystopia where everything is like mutants and ghouls and nasty things are out to kill you. Everything's out to kill you, and you just got to kill everything out there. Everyone's a cannibal. What was the other one? Oh, it was the one. What was that one with the man and his boy? That was like the so-called great writer, poet laureate wrote that story, or the award-winning writer. What the hell was that show called? With what's his name? The Lord of the Rings guy. History of Violence. Not History of Violence, but what's that guy's name? Slipping my mind. Anyways, yeah, not history of violence. Although, yeah, history of violence. Main actor. What's that guy's name? Oh, that's Viggo Mortensen. You know the one with Viggo Mortensen? That's what I'm looking for. Viggo Mortensen, post-apocalyptic movie where basically he's going around the road. That's what it is. He's going around the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Everyone is out to get his food. Everyone is out to kill him. Everyone is a cannibal. Everyone is bad. Everyone is suspect. Everyone. The only thing that we can do is, try to protect me and my nuclear little family. And by my wife died as my hard man backstory. And so it's very like, it's very colonizer. It's very selfish individual. The world is bad. Fund the police, fund the military more, because the second anything goes wrong, everyone's going to be shooting each other, right? That's good for arms dealers. That's good for capitalism, right? For everyone to distrust each other, right? You think about it. How are you going to have collective mass action, unionization, organization, mass protest, mutual aid of any kind if everyone is constantly afraid of the people around them? You can't. What you have is mass distrust. There's a reason why the number one, Oliver Stone pointed this out, even in the 50s, the number one, and to this day, most made show in the Western world, especially the United States, is cop shows. Because it's because number one, it suggests that everyone else, the world is just full of serial killers that are going to eat you and kill you. Not like the United States is full of white supremacy, and that's why the cops just completely failed to investigate massively disproportionately black people's murders, who Jeffrey Dahmer was killing, right? But the world is just full of nasty people out there. And so we need number A, lots of police to do lots of the suppression and rounding up of all these criminals. The police statistically solve less than one felony per year, commit more crimes than they solve, do many times more than the average person sexual assault and rape, burgle more a total net value of goods than all of the burglaries and larcenies and grand theft auto combined per year. The United States police. And so an apocalypse movies are part of that, right? And so that sense of like, it's every person for themselves, is reinforced, and it's not just random. It benefits capitalism. It benefits racism, racist policing. It benefits police budgets under a racist, capitalist, imperialist settler colony like the United States, and it benefits the arms sales because people go buy guns. They buy MREs. It's not a mistake that Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, all those right-wing libertarian podcasters and YouTube video people are peddling apocalyptic survival gear, gas masks, a year of food and water for your family, and 25,000 rounds of every kind of ammunition you can think of, because that all works together to benefit the ideology and the mentality and the psychology of being afraid of other people, and then being prepared to kill and fight over dwindling resources all the other people, which is not actually historically what generally happens in those situations. The global south is suffering far more actual resource shortages and apocalypses, but what they're doing is pulling together, like in Haiti, hurricanes, and the actual indigenous peoples in all over the world what are they doing? They are in way worse positions than the average white man in his fucking suburb. They pull together and fight collectively against the situation. If it's just not the nature that they're running out of food and resources, they figure out how to pull resources together so that they can maximize their collective energies, right? Whether that's water protecting, or whether that's trying to save their own dying ecosystems, like in Hawaii, where we're trying to replant our ahupua'a. This is actually not historically what humans do. This is a forced narrative by Hollywood and by Western media and Western so-called history. Anyways, so I think like that's like whereas in Tank Girl, it is also in a dystopia like The Road, like Last of Us, like Fallout, like etc. Right? Like Mad Max, but Tank Girl, most of the average people are not evil people out to kill Tank Girl and her friends, right? Most of the average people, they're just like, even a lot of the dudes, it's kind of generous, The average dudes is just like, hey, man, I'm just out here, like, hanging out in Seattle with, like, ripped jeans, and I'm just, like, trying to do, like, kinky role play where I have to be stripped naked by the warden in this prison. I'm just, like, I'm over here just playing, Wonderwall and, hanging out with Ice-T. That's all I'm doing, The average people are just, like, kind of, like, not that bad, even in the apocalypse, right? Like, I mean, right? Because in the other dystopias, all the people are just out to slit each other's throat. You even think, oh my God, well, these are the bad people, the Rippers. In the beginning, right? In the beginning of Tank Girl, the Ripper, Tank Girl, they're kind of shown as these horrible mutant killing machines that are gonna come, and they have these scary masks. Let me show you a picture of their mask. Tank Girl with their mask on. Yeah. So they have these scary masks that are like, oh, these must be like these are the nasties that we have to get lots of guns from Smith and Wesson and Lockheed Martin, and we have to get lots of bullets from we have to get our Colt 1911s and get ready to fight these horrible bad guys. And it's actually like, it's subverted later. I was like, oh no, they're actually just funny little friendly kangaroo people who are trying to not be crushed and colonized by rich white imperialists like Mr. Malcolm McDowell. And so, like that subverts that dystopian trope of everyone's out to get you and everyone's out to kill you. Everyone like would like to not be oppressed and forced to dehydrate by rich white guys. And it's kind of like, unfortunately, rich white guys can put into their populations those people, right? Those black and brown people, those people are bad and scary. And they're all want white genocide. Those people are bad. Those Jewish people, they have to be removed. This has been put in, these ideas have been pushed and instilled into Western populations. Those Catholics are subhuman, and we the Protestants have to wipe them out. That's the history of Europe, basically, for centuries, right? Those who put that in, who kind of push that idea into the minds of the masses of the people, right? Under feudalism, colonialism, capitalism, et cetera, which are not really any different, as I've been making that point. But even in the 1700s, it was the absolute monarchs like Louis XIV. It was the aristocracies and the oligarchies behind them that existed since Rome, through Rome, the fall of Rome, into feudalism, saying those people are bad because they're not Roman. Those people are bad. Those Protestants are bad because they're not French Catholic, Holy Roman Catholic Church. Well, now we're the Holy French Church. And now Henry VIII is like, well, I want to fuck a lot of people, a whole lot of them. And I want to cut people's heads off. And I want to not be excommunicated. So now it's the Holy Anglican British Church. It's like, if Henry VIII never existed, there might still be a Holy Roman, French, Spanish, British Empire. There might not be a separate British one, But it's really like one guy was like, I just really want to fuck so many things publicly and never go back on it. It's a very Anglo thing to do. Just like have so much cheating and nastiness that is so bad that you get excommunicated by nasty, fucking horrible Rome. If Rome thinks you're bad, which is full of fucking mass murderers and imperialist shitheads who committed genocide across the planet. If Rome thinks you're bad, the Borgias, then you gotta be pretty fucking bad. You know what I'm saying? So the British were like, Rome wasn't bad enough. We gotta get even worse. Let's kill everyone on the planet Earth under the British Empire. And so like, anyway, so the attitude is like still, but those people told the masses of people, you know what you should do is you should hate those people that are a different religion, are a different, because otherwise people go like, why are we fighting each other? Why don't we team up and get together, right? Why are we being why are we killing all the other people that are just like us? Why are we the common Protestants in this area of Britain killing them, the common French in that area? Why are we the soldiers in this region killing them, the common soldiers in that region, right? It's actually there's a in Black Mirror, this episode Men Against Fire. It's the history of Europe the study of the art of so-called warfare for Europe has been how to brainwash the 80% of young men who refused to pull triggers in wars, and how to so the process of the West is how to mass disinform the population to get them to think that other people based on arbitrary characteristics like language, skin color, appearance, religion are different, and then kill them. That's basically the only advance the West has ever made, is how to disinform people and get them to kill each other for the benefit of the rich, hereditary, pampered brats called feudal capitalist, racist colonizer monarchs and aristocracies, right? So it's really like, if you could get past that one, maybe the assholification is built into the Western education system, entertainment system, the Wurlitzer jukebox of state and the State Department, et cetera, that runs the Western world, the U.S. NATO hegemony that comes out of the Beltway, Wall Street, fucking Belgium, London, all these cities that are the capitals of capitalism and feudalism by extension. The Paris, London, New York, Los Angeles, Brussels, stratoplex castles, right? That collectively, through mass propaganda, informal and informal education, assholeify their entire populations, and keep them assholified to prepare them to hate their neighbors, to not unionize, to selfishly individualize, to hate people in countries that are doing collectivization like communism and socialism, to hate the people in the colonies and think that they deserve the colonies. That's why the British think that India should be recolonized. Most of Britain, the majority, want a monarchy and a recolonization of India and other colonies to maintain assholification inside their own countries. And so, which again, that's why I'm like, I can't really be that upset when I have somebody who is white in one of my threads, because I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. You live in the Matrix, You live with a 24/7 infinite piping of assholification TV, assholification school, assholification conversations, assholification radio, assholification, curated funhouse mirror version of your own social media sphere. So you live in your assholified world. So I'm like, if I come in and I'm going like, everything that you've ever consumed for the last forever of your entire life from every direction is wrong. It's like, you can't really, like the way that Neo's like, I don't believe this. It's like, it's not, I can't really blame you. Of course you don't believe me because I'm just some person. Of course you don't listen to me because everyone you listen to is disproportionately white or white affiliated or like Jet, right? Like Jet is just like, okay, yeah, I don't really want to date you right now, but not telling you what she actually thinks. You're a fucking asshole. Get the fuck out of my face, right? And so you have been used to, if you're in the Western, and the more privileged you are, the more you're used to just being bombarded by the same message, right? Now, Black Lives Matter was a period where it's like, holy crap, what? There's actually all these other people, and then but the general reaction of the West is still, well, that's just like wokeism and cancel culture and idpol, right? That's where the U.S. Canada's back to. Black Lives Matter is done, right? Now it's time for MAGA communism or whatever the fuck, I don't know what. Biden is gonna save the world, and if not Biden, Trump 2.0, right? Let's try MAGA again, right? That's where the West is. So then you're like, but so even more so though, that's where it's like for the people who are the people who have had to put up with this shit and keep the emotional bubble, like I talked about before, like, and I know how Holly and Big Teal, I know will basically will tell you about this certainly, where if you're a woman, you have to like make the man feel good and like don't treat him like a little infant, little baby, like don't like make him feel bad about how he's being an asshole. Just like do all of his emotional labor and like, do all the cooking and cleaning and do a full-time job. You got to do everything to make him happy. You got to like put your makeup on this and like, and if he bees a total dick, like don't anger him more. Don't tell him the truth because the truth would hurt him and he's too fragile to be hurt by the truth because it doesn't. He's like, but I thought you're supposed to be the big strong man. But this is the thing, right? Is that that enables the asshole-ification behavior, And like, and this kind of goes to, I don't really want, it's not really appropriate, but one of Holly's friends like recently just said, I just came out against an abuser who has been abusing people in this organization that I've been in, previously, I was abused by this person. I mean, the Communist Party of Canada had the same thing happen. Lots of the Communist Party for collective equality, economically and socially for all, Communist Party of Canada had disproportionate white men leadership who were sexually abusing people in their organization for years, and people tried to do something about it in the organization, and there was white man solidarity and covering up and gaslighting, and then eventually the younger people coming in the organization would leave the organization, right? And so similarly, there was another, I don't want to say, it's not really appropriate to put it all, but just as an example, like, one of Holly's friends was abused by this person, was scared to talk about it in that time, and was like, well, if you talk about that, you're going to lose your career. And I was like, it was a very good, Holly's friend had a very good job. Like, she was playing like the lead role in an organization that was doing showbiz and acting and theater, which, Holly's friend really liked to do. And he's like, well, I don't want to lose this opportunity. And he's like, even though like her job was like the lead star role, I mean, it's really like she had the power in that situation, really, right? But it's like because you're young and because you're a woman and there's a white man older than you and he's been there longer, you have to just like let him get away with things and sexually abuse you and gaslight you, and you say, well, I have to do this because this is important, because I'm managing you, etc. And there's all this kind of other stuff going on with that. It's just gaslighting. It's just this happens like everywhere, everywhere. This is just the normal Western ways to allow the asshole, to allow the persistent abusive asshole behavior to go unchecked. And as long as it does, right, it's not to like blame people that have been, experiencing this, right? Because I mean, I would say like as a worker, you're going to experience some amount of this. You're having your labor value siphoned off. You're being paid less than what you're worth, always. Otherwise, no capitalist is going to hire you unless they're abusing you and stealing from you. Because if they paid you what you were worth, they would not make profit, period, right? But then there's other levels of that. There's sexual abuse, right? There's racist abuse, right? There's trans phobia in workplaces, right? Like Netflix, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's global South abuse, which is a whole nother fucking thing, right? Like having slaves, making all of your in Bangladesh, making your clothes, and et cetera, having all of your colonies, right? Having your ongoing slavery in the United States, in the 2.5 million disproportionately Black and Native Hawaiian and brown prisoners, and the Hawaiians are the most over incarcerated per capita population. So those people are, even more obviously, being abused. And I mean, of course, you have very disempowered in that situation. And in Tank Girl, there's also a scene where you have the forced labor slaves working for Mancorp drilling the holes, and they're all like kicking pieces. Tank Girl for a period is doing the slave labor, like having dirt kicked in her face to dig the holes to get the water so that the Man Corporation can maintain the power. And so all of those working situations under a capitalist structure, certainly under a colonialist structure, certainly under a racialized capitalist and a slave structure like the U.S. 2022 prison system, is not to mention the slave markets they made in Libya by bombing it to the Stone Age, the United States and France. All of those situations are abusive and will continue to maintain, and they continue to persist. And it's difficult as one individual saying, this guy in this organization is sexually harassing me, abusing me. It can be bad if you don't have you don't have the confidence that when you speak out, other people will come out and support you. That's where things like a union, right? One of the first union actions in the game industry, one of the most toxic industries. Ask me how I know, because I worked in the game industry. I still work in it technically, but I don't work for capitalist corporations in the game industry. I work for the Silver Spoon Cooperative, right? With me and Holly, in a mutual beneficial Tank Girl commune like atmosphere, but with more video game making characteristics and Native Hawaiian land-back characteristics specifically. I think it was Riot Games was one of the first places to have some kind of union of any type, of any scale, and it took until the 2010s, way late. And the first union action, the mass walkout at Riot Games, League of Legends producer, was against the mass rampant sexual harassment and misogynist behavior in that company, right? And now we've learned Blizzard and EA, it's all coming out, right? How terrible it's always been, right? And it didn't like suddenly get bad. It has always been that bad. I know this. I've been in game companies. It's fucking terrible, right? But it's just like people hadn't had the confidence to speak out about their asshole their asshole solidarity at the top, abusing the masses of isolated, intentionally isolated workers, whether just labor value abuse against unionization, or Amazon, of course, spending millions and millions just to fight the unionization, and of course, sexual harassment, particularly of non-men, especially women, etc., inside of the corporations, and individually breaking those people off, like Weinstein, on the casting couch. You'll never work again, right? But if every Hollywood actress and every other person who was thinking of getting in had a union to be like, there will not be any starlets ever again if you keep on forcing your pig ass selves onto our bodies, there will not be any more Hollywood shows, right? If there was collective solidarity there, I mean, that's very difficult because it's the part of the game of Hollywood is like, there are so many people that want individually to have their personal fame or their money, that it's they'll be like, well, if you don't want to do it, I can get 1,000. There's 1,000 other women behind you that look very nice, and I would like to have sex with them. So you better do it now, or you can go back to where are you gonna go? Nowheresville, Kansas. So you better just have sex with me right now. And that's the threat, and it's like, and that relies on individuals devaluing their self-worth, the glamorization of Hollywood money and fame, which is not worth the bullshit newspaper that they print their ads on. LA is disgusting. So is New York. Right? And it's not very fun to be around a bunch of assholes who are rapists and just do a lot of cocaine. I mean, it's so awesome to have lots of drugs and sex and fancy parties with people who have 25 swimming pools causing droughts and wildfires in fucking California. Who wants to be around these assholes? Do you really want to be around those people? But they'll that's what they'll tell you. You should just take this. Even as a game developer, be like, there's 1 million people graduating this year alone who want to become game makers. So you should just take your shitty salary and shut up, because like, I'm gonna hire somebody who is just as qualified as you in 5 seconds. And so you should just take that shitty salary. Just take that $8 an hour or no dollars per hour, and you get kudos. And so again, so it's kind of like, so so part of that is de-assolification requires solidarity and not individualization of just me, myself, every man, every woman for themselves. You can't de-assholeize, right? People need to be supporting each other against the abusive power structures, and also means that people have to kind of come out and be like, that asshole was raping and was sexually harassing, abusing, and grooming in that organization, right? Those bosses are stealing all of our labor value, and they're not paying us enough. They have all of these executives doing these parties, and they're sexual harassing all of their secretaries, right? I even at the nonprofits that were the good companies that I worked at, they're full of sexual harassment and cheating on all the white guys are just waiting to cheat on their next wife, making all the money where all the women and the people of color do all the freaking work, right? It's funny because like, as a dude, not even as a white dude, because in Hawaii it's like if you're a dude, they kind of like, they bring in the good Hawaiians that will kowtow to white supremacy in America and just do whatever the capitalists want. It's kind of like the sellouts and fucking, it's the gusano, it's the coconuts, and they look at you and be like, oh, maybe you're like the white dude in Hawaii, right? So sometimes they look at me, they go like, they expect me to be like, I remember I said like, they were like, Chris, don't you want to, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go home and eat lunch with Holly, right? And there were like 3 women, they like local, they were like, they're just like part Hawaiian women, and they're like, what are you gonna go home and eat with your family? They were like I was working as a C-based teacher to help at-risk, basically troubled and poor, poverty-stricken youth, disproportionately non-white in the ghettos, basically, of Hawaii. And they were the women. They were doing all the freaking hard at work to teach the kids, help the kids, counsel the kids, do all the paperwork, manage everything, while all the dudes are standing around the office talking about who won the basketball or the football game, and then playing some golf, doing nothing, and then making 6-10 times their salary of the women doing all the work. And the more non-white the women, the more work you were doing. And then but when I came in the office, they were like, oh, what do you mean you're going to go home and have lunch with your wife? I wish my husband would even like just not be an asshole today. I don't want to talk to my husband. He's a fucking piece of shit. And I was like, you all hate your husbands? And they're like, yeah, he's just like all these men in the office. He's an asshole. And I was like, wow. And I was like, so they thought I was weird because I wanted to spend time with my wife, because nobody wants to spend, no white or no cis man wants to spend time with their wife. They want to be cheating on their wife or doing no work in the office, making a lot of money. Because when you are a man in the West, what you want to do is make a lot of money, gaslight and get women and people of color to do your work in the workplace, in the office, and then come home and get your wife to do all the cooking and cleaning and all the work and sucking and fucking and everything and looking pretty and do all the work in the house. So both in the workplace and in the household, it's expected that the cis straight man, not even a white one, is going to basically be a piece of shit. And so they were like, you're weird. My husband, and they said it was like Valentine's Day, and they was like, what are you gonna do? And I was like, well, I'm gonna go get roses and chocolate, and I'm gonna go home and eat lunch with my wife. And they're like, why don't you eat in the office with all the other drones that are being underpaid? Why do you want to go eat lunch and give your wife a chocolate? They're like, I don't want no chocolate. I don't want no rose. I just want my husband to not be a piece of shit and come home at 8 o'clock at night drunk. I just want my husband to maybe cook one time and not expect me to do everything after I worked all day, and he only works 3 fucking days a week moving garbage or working at the fire department. I fucking work every day. This asshole. This is what the women were telling me at the social services and basically like social work for the troubled kids office. They're like, there's no men that do that. So, and it only took me a long time to realize most men are fucking total shit, unfortunately, in the West. Like I've gone off on that one a lot, right? And not even the white ones, it's like, and I didn't really realize, like, oh, that's why you all can't get dates in 2022, because no women who are now doing more work than you and able to make more money than you, and they have their own, if they want to do sex work, they don't have to have some abuser pimp that's making disproportionate income from their body. They can just go get a fucking OnlyFans or sell tea or sell whatever the fuck they want and have their own Instagram account with their own business, and they're learning how to do business. And all the dudes are like, oh shit, I can't abuse all the women's labor in the office, the factory, the restaurant, and the home like I used to as a cis dude. What am I gonna do if I can't stand around, run my mouth, rape all the secretaries and get away with it with my dude solidarity at the top of this Communist Party, corporate office, Society for Creative Anachronism, theater, Hollywood couch, and in my own household, because I don't have a wife. And that's why 65% of 2/3 of dudes can't get dates on Tinder, and nobody wants to go out with them, is because that unjust power structure, which is what Tank Girl was talking about in the 90s, really, is falling apart. Good riddance. And as I was telling Holly, like there have been years and decades of fucking around. There have been centuries of fucking around. If you go you can go all the way back to all the colonization, certainly, and all the patriarchy and all the racism and all of the anti-indigeneity. There have been centuries of fucking around, and now are the century of finding out. And that's really what. And so all the upset, dudes that are in my Twitter thing going, Sourcebook, you have to get behind, and you have to have Western solidarity. You're an American. I'm like, no, I'm not a fucking American. I'm not here for you. You think Hawaii? Like I didn't say anything about this Hawaii stuff for a long time. I didn't say a lot of stuff about my own employers in Oahu for a long time, and I lost jobs when I did try to say shit. So there is a threat. But now it's like, that's why Silver Spook Cooperative, and anyways, that's why here at Silver Spook Cooperative, we are an independently funded economic sovereignty, which means political sovereignty, which means I can say and do whatever I want. I can call out abusers, like all of the so-called state of Hawaii, like the corporations in Hawaii, like the governor, like the mayor, like all of these complete clowns. It doesn't matter which one, like the entire United States, like the Western entire fucking world, like the global capitalist system that they operate with their water and power militarized, Malcolm McDowell supervillain ordering U.S. military and NATO. Because if I was working for the companies I was working before as a disempowered person, I would be still going like, oh, I can't talk about this. I don't want to lose another job. How is Holly and the kids going to eat? How are my children going to eat if I lose this job at this organization? But now is the century when people can have their own independent Patreon. So thanks again to all of our Patreon supporters. And thanks again to independent economic transactions with win-win, mutual, cooperative, beneficial economic relationships. Like when you get Neofeud, you're directly buying games as directly as possible from me. Yeah, I've got to use Steam and Itch, but it's I'm not going through a game company where I can't talk about the capitalist abuse and the sexual abuse and all the other abuse, right? I'm not going, and why the fuck are all the executives at this nonprofit embezzling all of their funds in Honolulu's nonprofit organizations and all of Oahu's nonprofits, state and corporate organizations and the U.S. military, embezzling all the money, none of it going to Hawaiians, right? If I said anything I'm saying on these streams when I was still working for those entities, I wouldn't have a job anymore. I just wouldn't say shit. So now is the time. If the Western barbarists could disinvent the internet and social media, I think that they would, but they can't. It's too late. So, and it's too late because it's way too late because there are more powerful counter-hegemonic socialist entities that are already up and coming, and it's too late. You can't put them back in the bottle. So there have been centuries of white supremacist patriarchy fucking around, and now is the centuries of the finding out. And so I encourage you, wherever you work, you should definitely call out all those assholes because, and Holly has more links. So I don't want to specifically talk about it on this stream, but it might come up at some point. And Holly and Holly's friend, anyways, the results of Holly's friend was very afraid to come out about that, but after coming out, the results are all of those sexual abusive guys that were like telling young girls, right? And then when they get old enough, then the young girls become 20 something, 30. Like Leo DiCaprio. I don't date anything older than 20 something, right? I forget the exact age, right? But it's not just because I'm attracted to young. It's because I can get away with abusing young people who don't have any knowledge of how these abusive situations work, right? And so those dudes who have been used to at this organization, that have been, this one guy in particular who was used to getting away with it forever and ever and ever. When Holly's friend basically said, this is what he's doing. These are all the horrible things that he's doing, right? He's actually in deep shit right now. They're very vulnerable. White capitalist patriarchy, colonizer patriarchy is very vulnerable right now because they're running out of money. All their colonies, all of their South America, CNBC reported $9 trillion has evaporated from Wall Street just in the last year, right? It's like the white men are on their ass with their bellies exposed. The white men are running the part of why patriot-socialisms and all of these organizations start falling apart is because the gravy train that keeps the white solidarity in check, with white straight men getting each other's backs, it lasts as long as the money and the power keeps flowing in to the corporations that they stand around and bullshit with each other, or the corporations, the nonprofits, the governments, the NATO summits. As long as the gravy is flowing in from the global imperialist capitalist system, they're okay. But once their money is running out, they start turning on each other, stabbing each other in the back. They're extremely vulnerable. The West is hyper vulnerable. You should out every last one of these fucking abusive, whether that's in your romantic relationship, whether that's some abusive boss, or sexual abusive, or any kind of abusive organization. They're all vulnerable. BBC just shut down its Vietnam office to do Western propaganda about Vietnam. Like Luna just said, the reason why is because they are running out of money. The African nations, Central South America, is not. They're doing win-win co-op again. They're doing tank girl community and mutually beneficial cooperation with China, Russia, Iran, and Argentina. I got all the specifics for you. I talk about them often, but the rest of the world that is not Europe and the United States and Eurosettler colonies in Japan, the G7 basically, 10% of the world, they're all coming out from under this, and they're over being abused. As entire billion-person nations, they are over being abused, and so with that comes, what is that? So as an individual, as a larger group, as an indigenous people within a colonizer, abuser nation, as a entire country against a superpower that's not looking so super nowadays, everyone should de-assholeify and out their financial, sexual, you know, their advantage taking individuals, companies, nations, governments, racist structures, Nazi funded, you know, organizations like the Azov Battalion, et cetera, et cetera. Because the power structures, the gravy trains that kept them in barely holding together, they're really incompetent. They needed $450 trillion of gravy train for the last couple of centuries just to keep their mass disinformation, to get average people to kill each other and selfishly look out for themselves, again, to the benefit of capitalism. But they're running out of money to keep the propaganda going. So you should really take this time, ditch that abusive boyfriend, ditch that person who's mad about She-Hulk turking, get rid of that fucking, you know, in Vietnam they have a tank, and then they de-asolify with tanks, and with Russian tanks, in fact, PT-76 Soviet tanks, not unlike the way that they de-asolify Germany in the 1940s. And so, like, you know, you don't so I'm not saying that you got to do your decisions, but it is the time in which, like, we have to make, and also think about it like this: the climate, right? If you think about climate, global warfare, the rising rights inside your own countries, and you know, there's all these other problems to solve, right? We don't have all the time to do de-assolification that takes another century. So just, I mean, even more so, there's kind of like put a rush on that. You know, like as Saber said, the clock is ticking, right? So if you want to undo the capitalist structure, if you want to do the structure that is necessary to undo the destruction of the climate and the ecology of the earth, you have to undo all of those colonial and all the intersecting racist, sexist, patriarchal, anti-indigenous, etc., the fascist realities, etc. You have to undo all of those if you want to deal with the capitalism, right? It's kind of like he's not really a either or. So not only is it like it's like imperative, and those systems are very vulnerable, right? And I think that's part of like why that's the difference. In the 90s, I feel like it wasn't quite as, you know, I mean, it's the Soviet Union had just fallen, right? So the biggest power against the capitalist superpower was gone. America was feeling like it's in its heyday, and we're forever it will be Western liberal capitalist so-called democracy. But now it's not that. Now it's very different. So anyways, it's now 1:10. I think that you know, so removing the, so again, it's kind of like, so somebody asked me, like, again, are you against, what are you saying, that you're for Russia invading Ukraine? So again, I just want to say, like, I'm not for anyone invading anyone. That's not a good thing. I can never like condone any war. I'm not pro war. Yes, everyone should just go to war and start wars. Like, you know, that's not really actionable. B, it's always terrible. It's going to result in death. It has resulted in death and destruction. At the same time, I question, like, who invaded who, like, and who began the violence and fighting. Again, that's narrative construction. That's a thing. People, the West, I don't even know how to begin that conversation without just being, oh, you're just a authoritarian, tanky, and like all the, see, that's what the West wants though. They want the white populations in the U.S., Canada, and the rich European and countries in Japan to think that anyone who doesn't fall in lockstep with their needless warmongering and imperialism and sanctions and capitalism by extension in places like Ukraine and the backing of their far right and is a anti-white racist or is working for the Russian government, right? I've been called Russian agent, Chinese CCP funded, you know, PSYOP and all kind of shit, right? And if you fall for that, if the white people of the Western world fall for that idea, which is that people like me, all we want Russia to kill all the Europeans and annex the United States as Western, the US, the people think, oh, the black and brown people and indigenous people just want Russia to annex the United States as the Western branch of the Russian Federation. And Britain will just be a part of the Russian Federation, and France is just another place where they have wine in Russia, right? And that's not what, I don't think Russia wants that, and that's not what we want, right? But I don't want Nazis in this earth. I don't want fascists. We don't want You know, do you recognize you just had the fucking Donald Trump who ran on over massive racism? Biden is the crime bill, I look up black people president, right? So like, we don't want to run the world. We just want you to stop doing those asshole things, right? And so when people ask, anyway, so that's just like, I just want to like, you know, I don't know, all these white people freaking out like Silver Spook wants to come to my house and put me in the gulag. I'm like, what? No. Anyways, but I do want to just a little bit of this history on the annexation. So about 95% approval of Russian annexation, and the sham is 95% of Hawaiian rejected annexation. So, but just so you get some of this history, in the 1890s, over 95% of the Kanaka Maoli or Native Hawaiians, signed petitions against the annexation of the sovereign, internationally recognized country of Hawaii by the U.S. The U.S. has never been democratic with Native people. That's what Hanani K. Trask makes that point in the "We Are Not Americans" video. This is a part of one of the actual petitions. I mean, just so I have some receipts on the screen. I've been talking a lot. I know Holly has a lot of the background research and sources for this, but you know, this is why I thought I was just making a little throwaway post. I saw annexation was trending. Russia annexes, Luhansk and Kherson, etc. Annexation. What's this about? And I was just like, what happened was the United States, Hawaii. I was like, that's so interesting because that's the same thing that the United States did. That annexation is what the U.S. fraudulently did to us. So number one is like, I don't trust Western sources, period. And because we're like, well, how can we trust the Russian source? I'm not saying I just trust everything that comes out of the Kremlin. But I definitely don't trust things that come out of the United States media or its history books, because I spend all of my time trying to debunk all of your Western lies. Right? And it's like, my point is like, this is a document where, whereas they submitted to the Senate of the United States of America the treaty for annexation of Hawaiian Islands to the said United States of America for consideration in its regular session in December 1897, we, the undersigned Native Hawaiian citizens and residents of the District of Honolulu, they did one for all the islands, obviously, who are members of the Hawaiian Patriotic League of the Hawaiian Islands, and others who are in sympathy with the League, earnestly protest against the annexation of said Hawaiian Islands to the said United States of America. So the U.S. did not hold a referendum at all. See, Russia, whether you think it's a sham, Russia held a referendum, number one. Number two, the U.S. didn't hold a referendum. The vast majority of Hawaiians took it upon our own accord to get a petition saying we vociferously and massively, vastly opposed annexation. Right? So it was clear that was not what the people of Hawaii wanted. Right? And that's my point, is that like, it's like whatever the situation happening right now, it is night and day clear that Hawaiians did not want to be annexed, yet the United States annexed Hawaii anyway, and the U.S. continues, not just in the past. Somebody said, oh, that's 100 years ago. That was 130 years ago. That's ancient history. The United States to this day continues to be in flagrant violation of the UN, even the UN, which is largely sides with the U.S., see if I can get that. The U.S. This is not history. High Commissioner on Human Rights. I heard. This is the formal finding of the United Nations in this year, not 100 years ago. The lawful political status of the Hawaiian Islands is that of a sovereign nation state that is under a strange form of occupation by the United States from illegal military occupation and fraudulent. Fraudulent. Do you know what fraudulent means? Right? What is a sham? Right? This is why I'm like, when the USA Today, BBC, CNN, Biden, Germany, France, and the whole Western world, right? All the rich white countries are saying Russia had a sham annexation vote, right? In that same moment, right now, the United States stands in flagrant violation of international law, right? Based on a known fraudulent sham annexation to this second. So that's what's so frustrating. You know, it's just, I was just like, most white people are not even gonna respond to this because they don't care about Hawaiians, right? That's what I thought. I'm like, they're like, most average Westerner are like, oh, Hawaii's a state. They have really good pineapple. Pineapple is like the Hawaiian, the state fruit of Hawaii, right? I'm just like, whatever, man. I wanted to post something so that I could say something and I put Indigenous Star under that and people learn something. I don't know, maybe, right? But then everybody's out there to be like, no Hawaiian, no Hawaiian. And I'm like, no, what the shit? You're talking about international law. This is the highest body of international law. The UN High Commissioner on Human Rights literally saying you continue to be conducting a fraudulent annexation. And the US is just going, no, we're going to keep being in violation. So my point is like, why don't the US de-annex Hawaii as a show of good faith to Russia to de-annex, right? It'd be like, right? Or just, offer something. But the point is that the U.S. knows that whatever the vote is, right? It's clear that if somebody shelled your house for 14,000 people's deaths in your community, you wouldn't want to be a part of that organization either, would you? Right? Again, that's abusive. That's an abusive, like being sexually harassed and raped at your job while being paid less than minimum wage would make you want to leave your job, right? Like it made the women who were sexually assaulted under Weinstein not want to be in Hollywood, right? Like it makes so many people want to leave their jobs when their bosses berate physically and verbally and sexually abuse them, right? If you were literally being killed, shot at your job, would you want to hang around? And if your fellow workers were getting shot at the job, if your community was being blasted by another region, like let's say, like, right, this is like, I don't even know, this is ridiculous, but you just, right? I would be surprised if the majority of people in those regions of the language ban on Russian, it's actually very similar to Hawaii. Like I said, the language was banned, Russian language was banned, cultural limits were placed on Russian-speaking peoples, and then there was mass shooting and shelling and killing of ethnic Russians based on ethnicity, right? Imagine somebody came to your area and started killing people like you because of who you were in your state. Would you want to be a part of that state or that country or whatever? Of course you try to get out to save your fucking life. On top of impoverishment, etc., of all of this continued chaos and havoc and destruction of infrastructure, etc. So, it's like, but the United States remains in continued flagrant violation of international law. The United States continues to maintain its sham annexation because the United States knows it can sham annex anywhere in the world that it feels like at any time. Hawaii, Palestine, Puerto Rico. It can get away with its illegal occupations in Afghanistan, Iraq, Yugoslavia, you name it. Go look at the non-white replies, the non-Western world replies are all giving you all the receipts, but nobody in the West wants to hear it. They're just like blue and yellow flag, Slava Ukraini all day, right? And it's like, and the United States knows that the entire Western world is completely inside of its brainwashing, brain damage system. The Western NATO matrix has all of its white populations contained, so it doesn't even care. It doesn't even care to even pay lip service to the fact that it is sham annexing Hawaii to the second, or Puerto Rico, or illegally operating in countless countries around the world, because the U.S. knows it can get away with that for whatever, because everyone's fucking brainwashed in the West. So that's why I'm like, I don't want to fucking fight with all of the Western goddamn world. All they're gonna do is throw fucking you're a genocide authoritarian at me and tell me, oh, you don't even know who Hawaii is. Look at this Hawaiian. He doesn't even know that Hawaiians love spam, and that's why Hawaii will never leave America, because where will they get cheap spam to get diabetes from? Eating ultra high salt and fat and chemically separated, disgusting pork byproducts, right? Because but I just want just for the record, the United States to this second has a sham election in Hawaii, a sham annexation in Hawaii, while it accuses Russia of a sham annexation. And everyone everyone is siding with the United States on this. When it comes for those people, for the Western peoples, they're all siding with it. That's, and so that's why I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Right? I mean, literally, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland literally said, "Fuck the EU." Speaking of sham elections, she said, "Fuck the EU." The Maidan protests in Ukraine in 2014 violently escalated as neo-Nazis and snipers opened fire on police when Poland, Germany, and France negotiated a deal for the Maidan demands. In an early democratic election, neo-Nazis attacked the government, and the United States, she is currently in Biden's cabinet, Victoria Nuland, on a phone call, U.S. Ambassador Jeffrey Pratt played significant roles orchestrating the political crisis that led to a violent coup overthrowing Ukraine's elected president. Nuland not only exclaimed "fuck the EU" on a recorded phone call, she also seemed to decide on the new prime minister. Yats is the guy. And guess what happened? Ukraine had a far-right assholification with the complicity of a democratic liberal cabinet member, a neocon, and she literally said, "Fuck the EU." That's what the U.S. is going. Look at this EU. They're so. What a bunch of idiots. Look at Germany and France and Poland. Look at these idiots. They're all freezing in the dark. Economies falling apart. We're gonna use them as a weapon because the people of Germany, France, and Poland are so fucking stupid and in our pocket. They'll they'll fucking throw Nazi flags up on their wall and think that it's saving the world. That's how much in their pocket the ruling fucking, masters of the universe and mistresses of the universe in DC have the hold on Europe, right? So it's like, it's in your own interest to get past your own bullshit, but I mean, I don't know how to do this, I don't know, man. In January 14, 1893, members of the white business community met in a corporate office in Honolulu to plan a coup against the elected government of Queen Liliuokalani. They were not sure how far they wanted to go, but they knew they had the support of the chief U.S. diplomat in Hawaii. And so, one more point on that, because since I'm doing receipt time, right? So that people don't come and go, Silver Spook is a genocide. So like the other 2,000 people this morning and yesterday morning going, Silver Spook is a genocide lover. He wants to run the world as Putin's vice president or some shit, right? Just so we're clear on that. This is not the only time. Where is the last one? This one. What do Ukraine, Hawaii, Taiwan, and Bolivia have in common? Imperial capitalists from the U.S. collaborating with the local far right and wealthy elite to the detriment of the masses, and then mass global propaganda, media, movies, history books on to airbrush atrocities and make it stick. Nancy Pelosi visited the former ROC ambassador, visited Taiwan recently. Former ROC, you might have forgotten that because people have the attention span of a gnat in the West. Former ROC ambassador to New Zealand said to Nancy Pelosi, "You Yankees always ask us to let more Taiwanese people join the army whenever you come to Taiwan." Kind of like the U.S. goes to Ukraine and goes, far-right people join the Ukrainian military. Korea joined the military. Korea has the largest over 3 million standing army in the world. Why? So they can fight who? The non-capitalist Chinese. Literally, I mean, they literally said that. This is the U.S. words. Literally to fight anti-capitalist, communist Chinese forces. When the U.S. General Douglas MacArthur referred to Taiwan as an unsinkable aircraft carrier, he was trumpeting the offensive nature of the strategies to use to contain what? Communism. During what? The Cold War. The U.S. containment policy in Asia intended to wall off communism, thus denying it room to emanate outward from the revolutionary hub of Beijing. Although, so the U.S. has said this thing out loud, but the U.S. understands that its own citizens are such fucking idiots. They can say, like MacArthur, their own strategy. This is all about stopping communism, and then get everyone to just say, if you talk about communism, you're fired. It's kind of like if you out that boss as a sexual abuser, you're fired. You're out of this group, right? But the U.S. has done that to all of its population and all of the Western world. If you say the word communism, you will not be able to have a gainful employment in the U.S. You will be blacklisted in Hollywood. You will never have a professorship unless you're like an Ivy League, Princeton, Harvard, and Yale graduate like Richard Wolff. The one person who was teaching left Marxist economics in the so-called economics universities, if you say anything about socialism or communism other than it's bad, you will not work in academia ever again. So the West has never had freedom of anything, let alone speech, because it's always been controlled by the plutocracy that runs everything else. And I just want to be clear. This is why Nancy Pelosi is in Taiwan, because they want to fight catastrophic war in the South China Sea and the Taiwan area for the benefit of the military-industrial complex, to maintain global capitalism, to crush the Chinese economy and tank the entire Southeast Asian ASEAN corridor. So, I mean, just in case you're an idiot Westerner and you don't know anything about geopolitics and history, I'm just trying to give you a slight Cliff Notes of the Cliff Notes version so that you can maybe go back and not scream at me that I'm a savage Hawaiian, because that's what everybody's doing this week. Congress has removed a ban on funding neo-Nazis from its year-end spending bill just before America's collusion with neo-Nazis, and I already talked about this, neo-fascists play an important role and tolerated role in the U.S.-backed Ukraine. So before this last few years, the U.S. was openly backing the Nazis, and some journalist outlets was going like, maybe it's bad to support fascists. But now they're all silent because they want to keep their jobs in the West, where if you say anything that goes against the highest ruling class imperialist interests, you lose your fucking job, like the people at BBC Vietnam. So, that's all I can say is, it's like, I don't need a cybernetic arm that shoots 25,000 rockets per second, like in Cyberpunk 2077 Edge Runners. I don't need cheetah legs that run fast. I don't need a cyber eye that I can see 25 miles away and like be a creepy cyberpunk lover who likes to sexually harass women like the CEOs of CD Projekt. I don't need any of that. What I need is cyber eyes that can roll back 1 trillion times into the back of my skull, because that's what I feel like doing every second of the day for the last 3 days. Because this is what happened in Bolivia, just as another example. 9 corpses in 24 hours proved the dictatorship violence when Elon Musk, Mr. Flagship of West white capitalism and the great exceptional, United States and its NATO allies. Another government stimulus package is not, this is his tweets, by the way, is not in the best interest of the people. A Bolivian said, you know what wasn't in the best interest of the people? The U.S. government organizing a coup against Evo Morales in Bolivia so you could obtain the lithium there. And Elon just came out and said, we will coup whoever we want, deal with it. So he literally said, we will back. And these are the people that he was backing. Who was he backing? Far-right, Sig Heiling, not neo-Nazis, Nazis. They're direct descendants of people who supported Hitler in World War II. In Bolivia, Elon said, we will put far-right in power who will massacre indigenous people so that we can obtain the lithium to the mass detriment of the people there. So this is like, again, this is like, I don't even know, there's the preponderance of evidence, is just like, if I'm She-Hulk in a law room, be like, the evidence is so preponderous. It's a preposterous preponderance of, disproportionately, propagandistic, pap bullshit. This is preposterous propagated propaganda that is preponderating all over the frickin' preponder webs. You can find it if you know how to search, but they try to stop you from finding it with the Death Star satellites like Google and all social media and the FANG tech industry. So I'm sorry. We must have Hawaii to get a fair share. So my point is, like, Hawaii was forcefully annexed illegally by coup, like all these other places, by the United States. Hawaii, we must have a fair share to get must have Hawaii to get a fair share of charm. That's President William McKinley. Kind of like Biden going, we're going to get rid of that Nord Stream pipeline. Russia is going to fall. We must destroy Russia so that we can get our share of all of the resources under Russia's territory and maintain capitalist, Western, racist, imperialist hegemony and keep enslaving the world. This is the Dole ads that same Dole who collaborated, Dole Pineapple ads after he colluded with the U.S. to overthrow Hawaii, depicted us as sexualized, domesticated savages to sell fruit, later vacations, Waikiki tourist propaganda. Hollywood movies about us are all fictional commodification of our advanced nation and lies, like I go over often, with the highest literacy rate, with the world's first universal healthcare system, etc. Hawaii is the linchpin of U.S. military strategy to this day. So if you know where to look, the information is there, but nobody cares to look. They just want to yell at Hawaiians. And they want to yell at Russians, Palestinians, South Americans, Chinese people, Asians generally, African people generally, indigenous people generally. They just want to yell at, get in line and support our Nazis that are doing our continued coup, our continued fraudulent annexation of Ukraine, really. The U.S. fraudulently installed that government. That government is not legitimate. The Zelensky government is an illegitimate government under international law. So if you want to talk about de-annexation, the U.S. has to remove its little puppet that is massacring people, has been doing that for 8 years. But we're not going to talk about that, right? What you can't have a conversation with a white Westerner that even talks about that. You bring that up, they just run away screaming, authoritarian Putin, Xi Jinping puppet. That's all I get, you know? They just run away fucking screaming. And they go back to their Nazi lair. I'm sorry, they just go back to the yoga studio in New York, which is full of mask-on fascists with more money. So, you know, but, you know, anyway, if you follow me and you follow this, you know a lot of this stuff. But I want to tell you, you can't talk about this. You can't talk about Ukraine and then use them, use the suffering against, you use their suffering for your own purposes. I'm not using Ukrainian suffering. You're using Ukrainian suffering by not understanding who the fuck Ukraine is. You racist piece of shit. You and your U.S. and your NATO are using Ukraine as a fist to go try and destroy a possible peaceful world. You know, but you know, how do you I don't know, like, if anybody has an idea of how I'm gonna start that conversation with the fucking 2,000 assholes in my quote tweets and in my replies on multiple platforms. If anybody, I don't know, man. Anyways, okay, so, but I just want to say that because then that way, like, if anybody asks, like, you talk about Ukraine, but are you being paid $1 million by Putin? Like, I mean, you don't have that much money to be paying nobody, I don't think, you know. They certainly, I'm still waiting for the Soros, the Putin bucks, I'm waiting for the Fred Hampton bucks, the Soros bucks, the Putin bucks, the SJW giant Antifa super soldier mech bucks, the Xi Jinping bucks, the Native Hawaiian ethno state bucks. Everybody say I'm getting all this money. I'm like, I don't see any money. That's why I gotta go beg for people for money on Patreon and on these streams because I don't have any fucking money. The people who say you're getting money are the people getting money from the Wall Street and DC. You know, they're all the fascists in Ukraine getting money, gravy trains straight from Victoria Nuland and Biden, going, you're taking money. That's why you're dunking on me and winning on Twitter because you're taking money from Xi Jinping, Putin, and, you know, Vladimir Ping and fucking everyone, you know. Anyways, okay, so that's enough of that. Okay, it's 1:35. So, you know, I will say this. So, like, you know, just generally, you know, whatever happening, what the annexation, if people choose, right? So, if people choose to, again, this is a part of the point in Tango. If people choose to be part of an organization, right? Whether that's your marriage, right? Or a boyfriend, girlfriend, romantic relationship. If they choose to enter a relationship, a larger, to become a part of a group, romantically, to join a business, a cooperative, ideally a cooperative, right? That's a win-win democratic business, like the Silver Spoon Games. We try our best to do that, right? That's why I always try to thank Holly as much as possible and not be a credit-taking piece of shit. Like, that's the normal dude thing to do in the West. It's just take credit for women's work, and then, right, like I talk about. So I try to not do that as much as possible, even though I know I still have, like, stuff that I've been socialized to try to do. I still have to try to fight that. So, but if you want to, so Holly and we have romantic, we have family, and we also have work relationships, because we work on, Holly helps me with the streaming, obviously, and lots of other things. So it's actually, it's a multi-dimensional win-win cooperative relationship at the Silver Spook Cooperative, right? I'm gonna put some random other thing behind me while I talk about this, maybe. And so, but you you can be in one or multiple of these kind of relationships with anybody. You could be, you could be at a bakery that has 12 people and you cooperatively work there and it treats you well and the revenue is equally distributed fairly and democratically. You decide, we're gonna bake 25 scones this month, or we're gonna not bake any this month because we're gonna have pumpkin spice, cream puffs in the shape of Jack Skellington's head, and and you're working together. nobody is sexually abusing the other bakery workers, right? And then that's fine, right? And you would need to do that because some people are like, well, I gotta take a day off, and you can't really one person have their own bakery for everyone who wants to be a baker. It's not really feasible, right? So, but when those relationships become abusive, people should also be able to, number one, leave those organizations. I mean, call out those organizations, be like, hey, I'm being sexually harassed in this business. In this marriage, I am being mistreated by my partner. In this romantic relationship, this guy is being an asshole. Now, right? And then that's what the 50s were like. Well, women can't even own bank accounts, so you are literally unable to survive because you can't have any money to pay for the food, housing, and etc. Right? As a woman in the 20th century in the United States, so you're literally a slave to your husband. You literally have to be in an abusive relationship, or you have to be in a relationship, and they're almost all abusive because you have no power to exit. Right? So whether it's romantic, partnership, business, you know, a sports team or whatever, right? A nation of people there are similar relationships. If the country of Hawaii, right? If the people of Hawaii, see, we want to form our nation of Hawaii, and these are the reasons: so that we can participate in an international community, so we can defend ourselves against potential colonizer invaders, so that we can have our universal healthcare system that we invented and that we benefit from, and so that because we all speak Hawaiian, or and we, for all of these reasons, we are coming together, these million people in Hawaii, or whatever number of people. We're gonna form our nation. This is what it is. We're not a perfect nation. We're gonna have discussions and democracy internally, and that's, Hawaii did have democracy. There were elections, and there were massive discussions about what path to take. It was not a monarchy in the British sense, which there's a ruler, and now there's an oligarchy, and everyone just does whatever those rich feudalist capitalists do. So Hawaii did have democracy in that sense. It was not, and the people who were in the country of Hawaii chose to remain the nation of Hawaii in the 1890s. That's what that 95% petition is about. We don't want to be, right? So nations can also federate with larger entities, right? This, Hawaiian nation, whether that's the federations in Russia, whether that's parts of Vietnam. Vietnam was 15 separate ethnic groups that never actually had any formal country recognition until, right, like I brought up last time, until two sisters, women fighters, again, it's always women. That's why every woman should get a tank. If you learn nothing else, give women guns and weapons, and then we'll see. They'll fight the just wars, like in Vietnam, Hawaii, the woman king, and indigenous women who beat the shit out of and killed Custer. Anyway, but the point is that, like, they became the country of Vietnam. They are 54 separate ethnic regions that chose to come together as Vietnam, right? At a time, in a place. Now, and not everybody agrees about exactly how and where and when and how much taxes should there be. Should we have full, Cuba style? Should we have full North Korea style? No private anything or very little? Should we have a more mixed system? Those are decisions that the people make, and Cuba is a place, right? They're like, we collectively, they had a mass collective democratic discussion, and the majority of the people said, we want to have LGBTQ plus rights. We want to abolish nuclear family. Anyway, so the point is that, like, and then now Cuba and Vietnam have other relationships, right? They're part of economic partnerships across ASEAN. Cuba is in partnership with China. They do business with China. Vietnam gave 5,000 tons of rice to Cuba. China is helping Cuba. Cuba sends doctors and specialty and medical advancements, including vaccines, to China and Vietnam. So they are, as a country, as a Westphalian state, they have the same, but they also have these other larger federations that they're in to different degrees. The U.S. has military alliances with, France, the UK, etc. All of NATO is a military, belligerent, Nazi-led alliance. The head of NATO is basically just the fascist of Europe, built a military alliance, and then they pretended to not be Nazis anymore. It's basically what that is. It's a Nazi. It's literally like when the U.S. installed those people in Germany and the other countries of Europe. They never denazified Western Europe. They just said, don't overtly kill Jewish people in gas chambers and don't be so mask off, right? But the U.S. knew that they wanted to keep those people in place because it benefits white supremacy, capitalism, etc. that continues to benefit the United States. So those are people coming together, but they're coming together, of course, on very internally oppressive, abusive systems that are the power structures of France, Germany, the UK, etc., that are all being pushed around by the bigger bully of the United States, are being kind of forced into these situations. So that all that whole entire thing is really, there's not really any democracy in Europe. That's why there's an organization, DiEM25, to try to get democracy in Europe, headed by Yanis Varoufakis, one of the most disproportionately badly affected countries in the EU, Greece. So anyway, so my point is that, like, if Hawaii, you know, if the people, now obviously, if the vote was to turn out to be a sham, and so like, I and Danny Haifong and 90% of the world is wrong about everything that we're saying about what's happening in East Ukraine, and it's like, the majority of people in that region, even the Russian-speaking ones, they like absolutely hate Russia. They don't want to join the Federation, and they vote no in a non-sham election. I would be like, well, yeah, well, Russia shouldn't force them in, because as Native Hawaiians, we didn't like, and it was not just for us to be forced in to the United States fraudulently, right? Now, but we don't, you know, we're still, I you know, could be wrong about lots of things, but I mean, based on what I understand, this doesn't seem like that. And I don't trust the U.S. or NATO or the West on anything because of what they're doing to us right now. They're doing genocide to us right now by punishing children for speaking Hawaiian right now and poisoning our water right now. So I don't trust when they say, oh, bad things happening. I'm not saying that means that everything that the enemy of the United States is doing is, they can only do good things. But anyways, you see what I'm saying? But anyways, but if a group decides they would like to become part of a larger group, they should be able to do that to the mutual. The size of the group does not matter. If you have a small fascist group in California of 50 people, and there are bigger ones than that in California, and then you have a larger indigenous community of like 10,000 people, we're not going to say, well, we should disband the indigenous tribal government, and it's worse than the group of fascists that have 50 people because there's less people in that group. That's not, I mean, that's nonsensical, right? But that's the way that a lot of the hyper individualistic North American particularly, but certainly Western thinking goes. And so that's where the people go. If people say, well, Cyberspook, you just have to be against all annexation. That was the people that are less bad faith and less diseducated, but still diseducated, would be like, you should, like, this annexation is bad and Hawaii annexation bad. Any time any organization, any country merges with a larger country, that's bad. Like, and it's like, because big things are bad, you know. The ocean is very big, you know. I mean, indigenous federations were huge, right? Do you really think you're gonna get the people of China who have had their mass poverty alleviation, the greatest success story of actual what anarchists claim to want, mass material conditions being met, mass benefit to quadrupling revenue, equal opportunities for all, coming out of colonialization, coming out of starvation, coming out of material detriment, coming out of enslavement to the Western imperialist countries, right? Do you really think you're going to get that country because it's big, right? But that's the argument is, well, China's big, so that means it's bad, so we have to like break it up. And that's how the CIA loves anarchists, because they can get them to, we'll throw them into any area we want to bust up, and they'll lead the charge. The left anarchists and then the right fascist anarchists, I'm trying to get them confused because they all have the same talking points sometimes. All of your countries are bad in the global south, basically. Is what unites a lot of the white left and the white right. They're like, all the countries outside of U.S. and NATO orbit are bad, and we gotta just like break them up into little pieces. And if we get bigger, like when the U.S. gets Hawaii, you know, I mean, well, who cares? And that was a long time ago. No, it's not. It's right now. But what really matters is like when there's a place over there, right on that border of that bad country, they can't take that one in. No, it's like, if the people legitimately want to join, right, a group, and they, you know, collectively say we would like. There's a whole other layer of what is if you have a diseducated population, right? they can vote against their own self-interest, which is what the United States regularly does, what the West regularly does, unfortunately, right? Even Native Hawaiians have been diseducated, so that's a whole other very difficult problem to solve. How do you undo, and this is where like pure just representative democracy is hugely flawed, because then you can even without necessarily a direct coup, you can just meddle, you can just propagandize a country by buying media, radio, TV, flooding their waves, NGOs, and brainwash a population into voting against their own interests. And that's a whole other thing, which the U.S. and the West often will utilize. But anyway, so like long story short, I know long story long, but I want to say that because, and one more thing, if Hawaii was filled with right-wing Hawaiians who said, people like Holly have to leave Hawaii, if for some hypothetical future Hawaii had a country, because I'm dialectical about this, right, where for some reason the U.S. had massive funding of the far right in Hawaii to build a East Turkestan Islamic movement of Hawaii, like the ultra right Hawaiian, ultra nationalists who say the only Hawaiians have direct blood relation to this particular individual, everyone else has to go or die. And so then my partner is white Canadian, and they'd be like, oh, so your Silver Spook, your partner has to leave because she's not Hawaiian. I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen, but if that were to happen, I would be like, what has happened here? I can't support that. I don't support that, right? Because that is a thing that the U.S. has done, is to support ultra national. That's what they did in Ukraine. Support ultra nationalists who have very, very fascist ideas about what counts as people of this country, and then kill and try to purge people of differences within an already existing like Westphalian state. And so if the U.S. were to try to do something like that, which so I got to keep doing these kind of things and try to educate people, because I got to make sure if anything like that happens, we have to prepare, we have to decolonize and just try to do everything we can to stop that, so that the U.S. has the least amount of chance of getting away with something like that, because they have gotten away with it before. They've gotten away with it in they gotten away with it in Xinjiang, they got away with it in Ukraine, they got away with it in Colombia, they got away with it all over the place. So Samoa, unfortunately, still has a large amounts of the people that are brainwashed into being right-wing Americans. That's why Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a Samoan Republican, like the leading Republican in a lot of senses, but people don't even realize he is. So that's all brainwashing that we have to fight. And so even I would say that even just a vote, if the people who are given the vote have been massively diseducated about history, about politics, about culture, which unfortunately is the Western capitalist way, then I would be like, well, I'm against that, because the population is massively diseducated, is just massively voting for evil, right? So so there's a whole other layer of that. And so, and that, just to be fair, because it'd be like, because I'll talk about the ethnic minorities as an ethnic minority in the United States. I talk about ethnic minorities like the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, ethnic minorities like the Russian-speaking peoples in eastern Ukraine, ethnic minorities like indigenous people in Turtle Island, and so I do feel like I can talk about those things because, I'm somebody like the Russians whose language, like the Russians in Ukraine, Hawaiian language was banned in Hawaii and Russian language was banned in Ukraine, and we both have suffered for it in different ways. So somebody said, Silver Spook, you don't know anything about the Russian-speaking populations. Silver Spook, what could you, a native Hawaiian, know about language bans? You don't know anything about that. I'm like, no, I know a lot about that, actually. I know a lot about. Now, the U.S. is not like mass shelling Hawaiians right now and blowing us up like the U.S.-backed Ukrainian right-wing Azov battalion was doing, and still tries to do. But the U.S. is killing us with poison water, mass incarcerating, shooting us with the police. The most, I told the statistics like 3 times already in this stream, right? But in case you forgot, the U.S., the number one most mass incarcerated population is Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander in the U.S. We are targeted by the social work system for children removal. Our language and culture were banned, and they still punish children for speaking Hawaiian. So yeah, The Russian population in Ukraine does share similarities with the Hawaiian population in the so-called state of Hawaii, actually. So I do feel like I speak on that. And if that troubles your white supremacist self in your upper middle class suburb in Britain or France or America or Canada, well, I'm sorry, you know, but that's like, I mean, maybe you should pay attention to what your own so-called great countries are doing, you know. Anyways, I've been talking, it's almost 2, but, you know, I hope that covers it. I wanted to go a little extra on that because, you know, just in case, but, you know, I just want to cover my base and be like, you know, that's my case. You know, I'm not saying I love everything and everything that comes out of Russia is good and everything that comes out of China is good and they've never done anything wrong. I'm not saying that. You know, just to say it one more time, because I know there's bad faith actors out there, and I don't know. I'm getting a lot of them nowadays. So, but anyways, let's play something else. Let's play the trailer for Neofeud, then we get out of here. So don't forget, the stream was actually supposed to be about Tank Girl, and I know we kind of went off the topic for a lot of it, but Tank Girl is a show about, you know, people annexing each other into a group to get along in a community, and then sometimes using tanks. They're not Russian tanks in this case, but Russia used tanks to kill Nazis in Europe when the US was supporting them in the World War II. But, you know, sometimes people use different weapons and guns, particularly when the violence started. Like, you know, Tank Girl didn't go killing other people to take their water. Mancorp came and started stealing everybody's water and killing people, and then Tank Girl responded to that. So it's actually right in the win-win cooperative Tank Girl household of mid-90s grunge rockers and adopted children wearing a lot of green and dyed hair colors. They resisted, and the dickheads got kicked to the curb, like the sexually harassing would-be wannabe boyfriend of Jet, and fight for loved ones with very high caliber weapons, because that's what they, you know, the tank shells, etc. So and so that's sort of like, that's why I chose not that I'm putting that together like today, but that's where Tank Girl, Annexation, and which is just annexation, which means joining a larger organization consensually, all come together in this stream. And that is the end of my opening and closing my mouth. But this is a game, speaking of Native Hawaiian issues, I wanted to give one more shout out to this game, which is why I made that tweet to begin with, which is about an actual fraudulent annexation and an actual empire doing imperialism in a science fictional game. I talk about it in the game called Indigistar. So I'm going to play the trailer real quick, and then I'll be right back.
For eons, the indigenous De-A-hole people lived in peace on their planet, in harmony with nature and each other. Hunter-gatherers sprouted into villages, villages begot cities, yet millennia passed without war. Over time, the De-A-hole built great civilizations while maintaining the Garden of Eden, the mother homeworld which birthed them. They blossomed up toward the stars, sailed Hokuva'a, starships, across the galactic Silk Road, trading with other peoples. Now, the unhealed descendants of Roman trauma, the utopian empire arrives to eradicate and plunder. The mother Aina desecrated, the relatives broken, the water of life poisoned. Kailati, a peace officer of the cosmic tree, must heal land and people, prevent colonial erasure of native language and culture, and confront the invaders before it is too late.
So Indigistar, like Neofeud and a bunch of other games, can be gotten on itch.io. So Indigenous Star is a game that's it's specifically about the things I've been talking about, but it's also a science fiction adventure game for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it's only $3. And all the sales do support everything we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative. Trying to get to our $600 goal. We're almost 60% of our way, so we're getting close. The stretch goal is like 5,000. If we got 5,000, that's like I made back what I put in, the time I put into this game, basically. But we're starting small. Like I said, if I was getting all of that money from evil countries, I would not be happy to do stuff like this. I would have much nicer lighting setups, like some dudes with a $600 microphone to talk about patriot socialism, So, anyways, so you can get Indigenous Star. Also, don't forget you can check out games like I am gonna add a reference to Tank Girl in the Pigeon with Gun game that's coming soon. You can also check out Neofeud on Steam and itch.io. It is a game that's about it's more of a cyberpunk dystopian adventure game. So it's like cyberpunk Edge Runners, but as a point-and-click adventure game. It does also deal with the topics that I discuss. In 2033, we create AI sentient robots to arrive, but not as Terminator overlords or singularity saviors. Machines are humanity's unwanted quote-unquote bastard children. And the main character is a social worker, a cyborg social worker for delinquent ex-con robots, who teams up with a anti-feudalist former princess who is trying to stop the world from succumbing to global fully automated fascist capitalism. And it's a game that is like Disco Elysium with more cyberpunk characteristics, or like Stray, but without a cat protagonist. Or it's like Detroit Become Human, but not a AAA game. And so Neofeud is also on Steam, and you can wishlist it. If you have a second to leave even a very short review, it is appreciated, because it does help us to get the game discovered in the algorithm. Also, there's Neofeud on itch.io for Windows, Mac, and Linux as well. And it's also a game that is maximum revenue comes to us when you get it on itch, and also the maximum, or you can also donate if you would like, and you don't have to use Steam if you don't like to use Steam for whatever reason. You can also get things like Decolonators. If you're over here like, I'm just here to hear you spit fire about freaking colonizers. Decolonators is a game where you kick capitalist colonizers' butts out of Vietnam in retro arcade game glory. So it's an actual fighting on the right side of history game. And sometimes, like Vietnam has the OG tank girls. You know what I'm saying? Luna Oi is a Vietnamese woman who actually did the main research and the actual voice acting of the lead character in this game. So it is an authentic game with authentic Vietnamese input in it. And the Vietnamese are the original tank girls. You know what I'm saying? Fighting oppressors like in the real world, like real time and shit. So, and to this day, they continue to do that. Anyways, speaking of tank girls, Woman is a book, of course, my partner Holly, who is a woman raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity, and this is a retelling of the story of the life of Mary, in Mary's own perspective, and it's a book that is free, or you can throw us some money here at the Silver Spoon Cooperative when you become or when you pick it up, if you want to help us out financially. Also, as I said earlier, if you want to help us out, ongoing way, you can support us at Patreon. Do you like denazification and De-A-hole-Ization? Are you like, I'm not okay with people who sig heil, and I don't really want Trump 2.0. I don't like the fact that a Mussolini stan is president of Italy. Are you like one of those people who hasn't completely lost their mind in the West? Well, you can get these games and find out what we're working on at the Silver Spook, games, as well as learn about some of the behind-the-scenes things we're doing other than games when you become a Patreon member. What is a pigeon with a gun? What is that even about? What is that about? Why does a pigeon have a gun? I don't even think the pigeon is in this screenshots. So, other things that we're working on, you get access to the Silver Spook Discord, where you can hang out with cool people like Big Teal and Holly and other people like that. And also, when you become patron, you get access. You also get to support this Native Hawaiian cooperative against the U.S. military poisoning and their illegal occupation and their continued genocide of Native Hawaiians like myself, and do land back, etc. when you become a patron. So think about that. Follow us at Silver Spook Games at mastodon.social or at silverspookgames at octodon.social for my personal stuff on Mastodon. I got so many accounts now. You can follow at Silver Spook Guy. Do you want to see me being attacked by all of the Westerners, liberal and conservative, and even left, and definitely far right at the same time? I know you don't want to see that, but my personal takes are on Twitter at Silver Spook Guy, at Silver Spook Games minus the E and silver for the game stuff. We're also on. I'm also on Instagram at Silver Spook, just Silver Spook, and on Facebook Silver Spook Games, just Silver Spook Games. I'm sorry that like each account is like a different name, but that's just how it is. If you look for Silver Spook on any of the platforms, though, social media platforms, you probably eventually find it. Yeah, and you can follow, of course. The other game that I'm working on is Terminus C. Terminus C is Terminus Cyberstar, a game that is based on worlds that I've developed, Terminus Machina, and it is a cyberpunk RPG. So it's like Cyberpunk Edge Runners or Cyberpunk 2077, but not a AAA game. And it's a game that is also, it's a game with the politics that I have, so I don't pretend like I make apolitical games. It's indigenous, Native Hawaiian, left politics centered sort of games. And it's also a game that is completed except for content testing and optimization. And yeah, so if you want to follow that at Terminus C, you can join the Discord if you want to do that. And of course, you should follow Holly. Soon, I'm coming out with Pigeon with a Gun game within the next 2 weeks or less. Within 10 days or less. And so Silver Spook Guy, partner Holly is of course the moderator, voice actor partner. As I said, partner, mutually beneficial partner in marriage and making of children and raising of children in the Silver Spook Business Cooperative, as well as in Holly also is in another producing relationship with Xanattack and the Lounge Show. And Holly is the producer, writer, and mod there, and also is the lounge in which the Pigeon with Gun game is centered. Kate Nix also plays the antagonist in Decolonizers, the game about the Vietnamese resistance that I was showing, and will also be voice acting some parts in the Pigeon with Gun game. So, anyways, so Holly, so there's a lot. You see, there's lots of all these relationships that you work with these people, and as long as both people are like, this is a good relationship, it continues, Not like, that's how things should be generally. Anyways, so Holly is also, of course, primary caregiver to the two keiki or children here at the in Hawaii, as well as administrator and schedule keeper at the Silver Spook Cooperative, and also tweets important things like this. And anyways, thanks a lot to everybody. Thanks a lot to all of our Patreon patrons. Again, I put up the new patron post last night, so yeah, don't forget, check that out. I know Big Teal did. Thanks a lot to Big Teal for sticking around. I went into Danny Haifong's Left Lens stream and I got a shout out in there, so thanks. Thanks a lot to Big Teal. Big Teal is definitely doing a lot of important work to moderate and keep the peace in a lot of these digital places. And yeah, so Year of the Tiger, indeed. Anyways, so thanks to everybody for your continued support. Thanks, Holly and Big Teal again. And thanks, Holly, for moderating. And also, we'll be back, of course, later on in the evening at 9 p.m. Pacific on Twitch. So yeah, have a good one. Keep your tank barrels polished. De-assholeify all the assholes out of your life and your country and your planet. And things will work out, and always, walk softly but carry a big gun, as Ice-T says.